Good evening and welcome back to OPC Season 2. We're about to head into the final match of the evening. I'm Kevin AVRL once again, Matt Pixie Carroll, and it's going to be Flash Wolves against Blank.
We've certainly saved the best for last tonight, and by the way, this is not even going to be the most intense matchup of the weekend. So, Blank Flash Wolves is a rematch of the Season 1 finals, and I said at the beginning of the night, but Blank actually tweeted out earlier tonight that they were coming in for, in their words, revenge and redemption. Let's see if that actually is the payoff. Bit of R&R. Revenge and redemption, exactly. Like, that's what I do. When we get... Last week, there was a break from OPC. I went off, got some revenge and redemption. I feel great. But in all seriousness, that is what is on the line here for Blank. And for Flash Wolves, they need to prove that they are still top dog.
All right, let's take a look at this. I actually have a very good relationship with Serenity. We played games yesterday. Actually, after OPC Season 1 finished, we actually became pretty good friends. So you just said you're pretty friendly with Jason Serenity, but he didn't actually come up.
Really looking for the match. Last time we faced up against Flash Wolves was the finals last season, so we've had a pretty intense 2 weeks, and we're looking to put out a really strong performance today.
他说，他们已经磨合了3周，然后今天好像是你们这一季第1次遇到对方嘛，那他们其实也非常有信心。那么呢，究竟比赛结果会如何？马上就把画面交给我们专业的主播赛评。
And just a little bit of interesting note there, but Flash Wolves debuting their new uniform as well. So look, this is Flash Wolves coming into, I don't know, new uniform, new victory against Blank.
Yeah.
Blank. I don't know what it is. It's just, you know, just cement.
So, maybe, they're going to reinvent themselves, like forged in fire. But I touched it just before that interview. Flash Wolves, they won Season 1. They won it fair and square. Like, it was an incredible run from them, going undefeated in match wins for an extremely long time, all the way up until finals, where they finally started dropping a few games here and there, and even then were just totally the better of the two. The first day of those finals was actually a 4-0, and the second one wasn't much harder than that for Flash Wolves. They were unequivocally, they were unequivocally the strongest team of Season 1. But this is Season 2. Currently, they're tied for first. They've yet to play Ardiant. The only other team in the top 4 that they've played has been AHQ, who they won, but it was not an easy win. It was hard fought and well won, but it was not easy. It's certainly not as easy as their previous matches against them in Season 1. And now both Blank and Ardiant are going to stand as the major challenges for Flash Wolves. So as much as Ardiant have a stress test weekend, Flash Wolves actually have the same, and we have to be honest in saying they haven't actually returned to Season 2 in top form.
And both teams have had some struggles so far into the season. Let's go through the lineup for Flash Wolves. First, Jongi, K-Momo, Zonda, Bacon Jack, Sinclair, and Realman. And the struggles for Flash Wolves, we talk about the fact that OPC Season 1, they had a great win streak, only lost their first map against Blank in the Grand Finals after going undefeated since Week 4 of OPC Season 1. Then they came back from the World Cup and looked a little bit shaky.
This now here is Blank, consisting of 2 new members from last season. Now Huss and Huwoo joining the remaining members of Blank who were here since Season 1, being Gunba, RQT, and a couple more. I've completely forgot the names. Just some guys. Trill and I Eat You Up. I can't believe I forgot it. It's like, you know, when you walk into a room and the moment you walk in, you're like, I completely forgot why I'm here.
And just looking at Flash Wolves again, so some of the trials and tribulations they've had for this season so far has been the fact that 2 full 5 maps against both Hong Kong Attitude and Machi. And when you look on the other side, Blank actually lost to Hong Kong Attitude as well. So actually for both teams, had a little bit of a rough run. So this may be now Flash Wolves' opportunity to prove that they're still top dogs, despite having some tough runs in the tournament. The big thing to remember is, despite having close run-ins with the other teams, they haven't lost yet.
Whereas, you're right, Blank have lost to Hong Kong Attitude, where Flash Wolves were able to overcome them. That was a close series. It felt like it could have been a loss at a lot of junctures for Flash Wolves, but certainly on the side of Blank here, what they come into this needing to prove is that that was a one-off. They've figured out what went wrong and they've improved and can overcome Flash Wolves. They feel they have, and I guarantee you Flash Wolves feel that they come into this better than they have so far in the season. We really are going to to get a finals rematch here, albeit in condensed form, but make no mistake, this is a clash of titans.
And with, you know, new members as well. So the members that sat at home and watched
Lucio.
That sat at home and watched from the sidelines of Season 1, being Huss and Huwu, now they get to come in and see if they can be the difference makers. Is this the X factor that pushes Blank across the line against Flash Wolves, or will they suffer the same fate as the old Blank from last season as well?
And speaking of those new members, here is Huwu. Their flex play. What's the Zenyatta certificate there? He hasn't played Zenyatta at all. What he does play is the Diva, and he plays an incredible Zarya as well.
And for Blank now, any issues that they had against Hong Kong Attitude, any difficulties that Hong Kong Attitude really pressed them for, I'm expecting Flash Wolves to press on them and punish them even more so than Hong Kong Attitude did. So really important for Blank now going into this matchup to have overcome whatever issues they had in that matchup and come on top of that now against Flash Wolves.
AVRL's hair taking center stage there. And what I want to know is how it maintains its verticality. I mean, that was really something else. There's a lot of product going on in here, and like he's got nothing. It just goes. It's just that way naturally. How does he do it? Well, he's gonna need
maybe it's Maybelline.
He's gonna need to do, by the way, a lot more than just defy gravity with his hair. He is gonna absolutely need to pop off tonight if they want to overcome Flash Wolves. So I kind of want to zero in on that particular matchup there. It's gonna be the I8U Bacon Jack matchup. We don't talk too much about player 1 versus 1s because honestly, Overwatch is not that simple. But certainly in terms of these two players on the Tracer, it always comes close. But I think what could be the swinging difference here is both teams' respective ability to adapt to the Doomfist pickup as well. Flash Wolves on the home side, by the way, had the first pick. They're opting to take this one to Nepal.
And both teams had a lot of run-ins across various different maps. Lee Jung probably the #1 run-in, but look, Nepal is probably that next pick for both of these teams as well. And I'm just kind of glad because we don't see a lot of Nepal so far in this pool. We've seen just only Lee Jung.
Oasis.
Like zero Oasis. Like, come on, guys. We got more maps. We got more maps available. They make this tournament look like it's actually just a set map. Like it has to be Lee Jung.
You play Lee Jung and then you play King's Row, and then you can pick either Temple of Anubis or Horizon. That's it. That's not actually how it works. So by the way, Flash Wolves, you see there with the home side, we'll be able to pick maps 1, 3, and 5. First one being Control, which they have picked as Nepal. And then Blank on the away side will pick maps 2 and 4. That is indeed if we go to maps 4 and 5, those extra picks will come into play. But first up, Nepal. This is interesting because I would say Nepal is really swingy for Blank. When they look good, they absolutely dominated Nepal, and when they look bad, they seem to absolutely crumble.
So let's talk about some of the reasons they lost to Hong Kong Attitude last time, because part of that for me was Huss being shut down by Shaolin. That's not going to be any easier tonight because instead of Shaolin, you got Bacon Jack. And that's certainly an upgrade in terms of Tracers debatably right now because I hold Shaolin in high regard, but certainly Bacon Jack, the prestige and the pedigree is there for him. So if you're Huss, you struggled against Hong Kong Attitude's Tracer, that's not going to end now.
Yeah, and the other side of that I was touching on a moment ago is the respective adaptation to Doomfist. In general, Blank have seemed quite comfortably flexible in their ability to move on and off, you know, the Tracer Doomfist into Tracer Genji or Doomfist McCree, etc., and seem to have a lot more flexibility than a lot of these other teams. And I would say on the flip side of that, Flash Wolves have actually had one of the hardest times adapting to Doomfist. They do seem to have finally started working it out, and they have themselves been open and saying, yeah, we are still kind of figuring it out. But this is going to be a real test for them if they want to pull out the Doomfist.
And honestly, I don't think it's a necessary thing. Just look at Ardian. They didn't play Doomfist pretty much at all.
And they've got a great Doomfist.
Super successful, and they probably have the best Doomfist in the tournament. They're saying we don't need to do it. So for a team like Flash Wolves, they got a great Soldier Tracer. There is absolutely no reason they should feel like they have to change off of that.
Well, as you say that, indeed, both teams are going to run a Soldier Doomfist. And like I said, this is that comfortability. AVRL happy to play that Soldier as much as Huss.
Soldier's been a big pick for AVRL in this season so far. He's been practicing it a lot. I know he's had some good success in the dual tournament as well.
That's a 1-for-1 so far, but Huss being out of the picture compared to Realment hurts Blank quite a lot as they have to back up here. Zonda also forced to retreat, but he's just completely safe here. No one else dying from Blank though. they do successfully retreat, so they can come back in for a fight. And actually, they've made the first move on the point.
And Flash Wolves need to be aggressive here because they actually lack the healer. Realman is back in, but that also means Huss is back in, so we've had a full reset. The cap is open.
Ooh.
No one's really going for it just yet. Now Flash Wolves going to turn on the head.
And Zonda got a tactical visor stored up from that opening skirmish. That is huge, and he uses it to really start to close the door on this one. So Blank, good move onto the point. Didn't actually get a cap out of it, by the way, because Flash Wolves contested well. And Zonda sticking back. Plenty of damage being pumped out from him.
I do respect Flash Wolves' patience there because they didn't want to overextend. They respect Blank a lot. They understand if they do something that is punishable, Blank will be on top of it, so they wait for Realman to come back. Huss came back as well, but it is Flash Wolves that struck first blood. They get the early cap, and now they're set up with ultimates to defend it too.
Ooh, Huss barely getting topped off, but crucially gets topped off. That's the Transcendence out of Gunburst. They need to convert. There's also the Transcendence out of Sinclair, making it hard to do so as they start to wheel around onto the point, but Bacon Jack getting the pickup, and Eat You Up just doesn't seem to have any clear sightlines here. They finally close out on Bacon Jack, but Huss really struggling to go off on this fight here. They're actually just kind of backing up.
Losing a decent amount of time now. It's Blank Esports have gotten into these fights quite quickly, so I do like that out of them. They're not sort of waiting too long to get into these fights. They are using ultimates too. Flash Wolves are using ultimates. They're coming roughly even, but they're not able to win the fight in a position where they can actually get the camp done. So now the next ultimate's going to come up in terms of both Huwu and RQT. Eat Up's going to have to get a lot of work done before Zonda can get his tech visor.
And that's a good start. Huss winning the 1v1 against Bacon Jack, but Eat You Up can't quite, the health back's not there and couldn't quite retreat to RQT, and in that as well, Huss goes down to the self-destruct, so without those DPSs, the fight is as good as over for Blank. They've drawn out some extra ultimates from Flash Wolves, but the fact that they weren't able to convert anything more out of that fight is really unfortunate, and now they've really only got space for one.
And that was a really lean fight from Flash Wolves. We've just seen Ardian be extremely good with the ultimate economy, and Flash Wolves, that was a very good fight for them because they only had to use one ultimate. Blank Esports responded with one ultimate. In a situation where both teams are trading, Flash Wolves coming out ahead because they're the ones racking up progress and paying for it with the ultimates. Blank Esports, they're paying with ultimates, but not getting results.
And they desperately need to get those results now. They have a few ultimates at their disposal. Eat You Up. Oh, Huwu with the 3K. Opens it wide open. Good self-destruct from one of their younger players, at least fresh to the squad itself, and Blank get a setup on the point. It will go all the way to 99 for Flash Wolves, and they did use a couple of extra ultimates on top of that, but that is what Blank were looking for.
And Blank Esports needed that to get back in the game. They were looking like they were struggling for the most part in this map so far. 99-0, they got a mountain to climb, but they have some tools to get it done. They got the climbing boot, they got the sickles, they got whatever you need. I'm not a climber, so don't ask me.
Ice picks, my friend. Sickle is for wheat. It's different.
Climbing the wheat hill.
Climbing the wheat hill, here we go. Well, Huss with the Meteor Strike, partially to save his life, but it is actually zoning Flash Wolves back a little bit, so he's going to be able to go a little bit aggressive. Bacon Jack catches him though, and they need to convert some kills quick, smart. Really need to close out on someone here, but Zonda's just putting all this pressure down with the tactical visor, and the members of Blank are going down. They're not able to close out these kills on members like Bacon Jack and Jongi, and unfortunately they are now on the cusp of losing this point and just having it go back over to Flash Wolves at 99% with no opportunity to recontest.
Yeah, that was an explosive opening for Flash Wolves as well. Blank Esports this time, no miracle 3K from the self-destruct to keep themselves in the game. Not enough members here whatsoever, no ultimates either. It does look like Flash Wolves, they're going to clean up on Sanctum.
That was a very nice way to pick it up for Flash Wolves. And not entirely unprecedented. This is the rematch of the finals, so we have to be honest in saying it is on Blank to turn it around and win it. There were those glimmers of hope. There were the sparkles of necessary things, but they need to just pull out a little bit more than that.
And if I'm not mistaken either, the final map of that Grand Finals was Nepal. This is where Flash Wolves ended Season 1 in that Grand Finals. This is where Flash Wolves will now begin the Season 2 against Blank in a rematch. So
I'm really glad to see Flash Wolves are sticking to the script here.
yeah, it's
That's honestly what it feels like. Like this is almost too poetic, right?
well, it's like you watch a sequel and the opening scene of the sequel is the last scene of the ending of, the previous movie. So that's how you want to start things off.
Oh, exactly.
But if that's the case, that does say that Flash Wolves come out ahead. We'll have to find out.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Season 2, there's new characters involved as well. Let's see how it changes. Gunba already going down, though, in this opening skirmish, and this is great aggression out of Flash Wolves. Totally unanswered for as well. Look at how low Jongi is, getting away with murder there.
The concern I have for Blank here is that the one fight they have won so far in this series was off the back of a huge self-destruct from Huwu. That aside, Miracle plays out the window. How are Flash Wolves, rather Blank, getting into this? Because so far they're being out-traded for the most part. Bacon Jack's getting a lot done on either the Doomfist and especially on the Tracer. Look, we know he's a fantastic Tracer.
That was nearly a one flip onto Eat You Up. And actually, Gunba is going to get the pick on Zonda. That is very big for them. And by the way, opposite day here as Eat You Up is back onto the Tracer. Huss going to be pulling out the Doomfist again. But Zonda is going to be the Doomfist this time around for Flash Wolves. So Blank with that opening kill closing out on Jongi as well now. Looking a little bit better already as they kill K Momo. Get the grab back. So to answer your question, that's how they're going to win without those miracle plays.
Well, they're going to get the grab back, and a fairly early one too, so they're not going to let Flash Wolves get away with a huge progress advantage like what we saw into Sanctum. And actually Blank Esports putting themselves in a position where they have ultimates to play with as well as Flash Wolves about to get their first ultimates in the game. And we mentioned this 1v1. Like you said, 1v1s don't really define Overwatch that much. I think this one does.
This one absolutely does, and it's actually Eat You Up really putting the pressure onto Bacon Jack. They're not letting him get free reign as the rest of the team pressures out Zonda. They trade that one for Gunba as Eat You Up casually tosses in a pulse bomb to D-Mech K Momo, then gets his attention back to Bacon Jack. They force the ult out of Jongi as Huwu is the one to close out on the Flash Wolves Tracer player. And Meteor Strike for good measure out of Huss. Why not? Really disarray on the backline. And actually it's Flash Wolves who seem to be struggling to get the counter trades in this one. Eat You Up is really able to get free reign.
Eat Up just such a great job there of just keeping his team in the game, and Blank Esports didn't have to use anything else.
Take that health back.
And I don't mind that. Zonda's saving his own life there, making sure he's still alive for his team's next push. If he had died in that situation, that would have been another reset for Flash Wolves, and they can't afford to lose time.
They absolutely can't, but there's Eat You Up going off again, buying that extra bit of time for Huss to regroup. Now they're at a numerical advantage. Huss a little bit low. They do need to play this one carefully. Can't let Bacon Jack go off as they do pick off Huss. They commit their Transcendence, and Self-Destruct does get committed. By the way, it's Huwu picking himself up another. So Blank already in the driver's seat of this fight as they D-Mech K Momo, who smartly does not commit a Self-Destruct. Nothing to be gained out of that one. And suddenly Blank are on the cusp of evening up this series.
And that was an important kill into Realment as well from the Self-Destruct because he's so close to Sound Barrier. That was going to be their next tool to continue this fight. The Sinclair Transcendence really put Flash Wolves onto the cap, and now they're going to have to come back into the cap. Not a lot to use. If they can get the Sound Barrier, that might be how they win this.
And by the way, this one Pulse Bomb could completely shut Flash Wolves out of the fight if he lands it well, and that's well landed as it gets Zonda and helps D-Mech K Momo as well. Bacon Jack knows it's all over. Rover takes a dive, enjoys floating through the air. They nearly snuck out a cap in among that, but it is not going to happen as K Momo is going to get taken down. Last man was on the point. That's going to be Blank evening it up 1-1 in what was a very solid looking victory.
It's definitely very competitive so far. Sanctum was all about Flash Wolves. Gone to Village, it was all about Blank, and now we've only got one map left and a best of 3 onto Nepal. We're still not sure exactly which team comes out on top because Flash Wolves very controlled onto Sanctum, but then they couldn't hold on to that lead going onto Village. The only thing that's certain about this matchup so far is that Flash Wolves are winning the opening engages consistently.
Well, and even that could actually still change. There is still time on Village. Let's see. Honestly, Shrine rather. Yes, it is. That is where we are. You're quite correct. My apologies. But this is interesting because it feels fitting that it is going to come down to essentially a tie on this control.
And like I said, it's not impossible for Zonda to go back onto Soldier. Go onto McCree. That's something else that they've been running. We know he's got a McCree in the back pocket. Blank Esports, this has been their golden lineup. I don't expect them to be the ones deviating. So for Flash Wolves, they can afford to get creative.
Yeah, they're the ones who also kind of have to change if they want things to go a little bit differently. Completely mirrored team comms out of both teams here, same as last time. If it ain't broke, don't fix it as far as Blank are concerned. And not going to go ahead and lose that opening skirmish all that quickly as they take out Jongi. They lose Huwu's mech for it, but they're happy to take that one, and they also get the point cap. So there we go. Rewriting history a little bit as they pick Realman as well. They lose Eat You Up, so this is not done just yet. And they're starting to get these trades through, but finally the closeout on Zonda means it's only Bacon Jack if somehow Flash Wolves turn it around, and smartly he is going to back off.
Yeah, and Zonda tried to back off as well, but couldn't really make it out in time. K Momo getting D-Mech means he's going to get staggered here. He's going to have to take himself off the side of the cliff. For Flash Wolves, this is a bit of a bad scenario. They're just losing so much time here. They were winning those opening engagements, but this time around, Blank, you're right, rewriting history here. They win that opening engagement, and they get the early lead on progress.
Yeah, so like you said, the one thing that was consistent was Flash Wolves winning the opening skirmish. Well, that's not consistent anymore, and they need to not let themselves get shut out from this point onward like they did on Village, so let's see how they do that.
And they're still spending time just sort of clearing their back line, making sure Edup's not cornering them from somewhere, but That was a pretty good clip.
Yeah.
I've seen one.
Nearly got the one clip on Huss, but crucially didn't. Throws the pulse bomb into the mix, doesn't get anything for it. Well answered, but that does force the Transcendence out of Gunba. Singler has to use his as well, and RQT now sound barrier to keep Gunba alive as the pressure is still there onto him from Bacon Jack. But it's K-Momo this time getting the self-destruct kills. Trade backs though as they pick up Realman and K-Momo both. Ooh, but Zonda still in the fight, still getting the pressure down. Could be all it takes here as he and Bacon Jack are still largely. And as I say it, eat you up. The last remaining DPS member closes out on Zonda. Bacon Jack getting pressured out now as well. And this is not going easy for Flash Wolves. Blank, by the way, are on the cusp of pushing this into 80%, 90% territory. So even if they lose this one, they have set themselves up to win anyway, as Flash Wolves are going to have to commit ultimates if they want to do it now. And even then, it's hard.
Absolutely, and Realman dies again with a sound barrier. They really need to get these sound barriers out. Last time on Village, they couldn't get it in there. This time they have it, and we're about to head into the overtime. Flash Wolves, this is completely the opposite of what we saw in the Sanctum.
They're finally closing out the kills, like I said, as it goes as far up as 99%. Huss did actually commit maybe an unnecessary meteor strike there. Blank don't need to fight this out any further. They can let the cap go over, and Flash Wolves do have the numerical superiority now. I would like to see them. Never mind. They've regrouped. They get a kill with the self-destruct. They want to stay in this one as Huss gets the ultimate. And indeed, where is the Transcendence? Where is Sinclair saving his teammates? Because RQT's got his sound barrier to keep them alive in this fight. They want this one, and they want it now. There's the Transcendence from Sinclair, but the moment he's out of it, Eat You Up is right onto him. Flash will step off the point for the split second, and Blank are going to win Nepal.
Yeah, and Flash Wolves again just dropping the control map, unfortunately. It has been the control that Flash Wolves have traditionally dropped so far in OPC Season 2. This is going to be the triple kill from Huwu, the one that really bought them a fight onto Sanctum. But interestingly enough, Sanctum was not the map that they win.
Yeah, so this went from, had it not been for that 3K, would have essentially been a shutout, to being close to a shutout in favor of Blank on Village, to being an absolute shutout on Shrine. And the thing that was incredible was that final fight. I mean, it was trades and trades and trades. And there was this moment where Blank decided to just go for it. They went, we're going to go ahead and commit. And I don't know, it just went off. Like, I was stunned at that. I was fully prepared to say, and they've overcommitted and are going to give away a ton of ult charge. But actually, they played it so cleanly. And Flash Wolves weren't playing it badly, mind you. It was just this one incredibly long fight that Blank never quite lost control of, which meant they never quite lost control of the point, and it resulted in a shutout.
And 1-0 the score so far in terms of in Blank Esports' favor, actually. So Flash Wolves off to a slow start here. In fact, they actually had a good start in terms of Sanctum, but then when we moved to Village, very even. When we got to Shrine, that became far more Blank one-sided. The two sides of the coin that I want to really look at here. The first one is Bacon Jack, because to me, he hasn't really been showing his level compared to someone like Eat Up so far in the series. Eat Up's been really, really strong, particularly on Village and definitely on to Shrine as well. When we look at Sanctum, that was Bacon Jack on the Doomfist. When Bacon Jack's on the Tracer, for some reason, he wasn't pulling that weight he normally does.
And I think what may have been a factor there actually was the other half of that DPS equation, which is when Zonda is on the Soldier and not the Doomfist, we were really seeing him go off. I almost wonder if Bacon Jack on the Doomfist didn't look as impressive, and I say that dubiously, by the way, because Zonda is so solid on that Soldier, and you compare him to I Eat You Up Soldier, there's a very marked difference. But I Eat You Up, yeah, when it was the Tracer across from Bacon Jack's Tracer, did just seem to be having more of an impact all the time, and Zonda's own Doomfist seems to still be a little bit lacking, and that's not even compared to us.
I think Doomfist aside, I'm specifically just looking at the two Tracers as we're about to get into the replay. This is going to be that triple kill from Huwu, but it has been for me Bacon Jack on that Tracer, because you look at the 1v1s between him and I Eat You Up. I Eat You Up has been coming out on top of those, even if only just slightly. At Bacon Jack, you don't see him picking up the back line like you normally see him do, so that's definitely been a bit of an issue. So, you know, Zonda aside, Huss aside, they're not really a concern for me. I'm not really looking at that. And I don't believe there's that kind of, that doesn't really feed into Bacon Jack. I'm specifically only looking at his own play here, what he's doing on his own. And it's not as good as what he's been doing on his own on the Tracer in previous games, across the entire Season 1, across Season 2 so far.
I think that's completely fair. By the way, I just really loved how in that replay, there was like this moment where Sinclair had committed the ult and his whole team was dead, and he was like, now what? Like,
that happens.
It's like, it was, all I could picture was that John Travolta, like,
Well, it's kind of like what happens when you Deadeye into Transcendence.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
one of the few
John
ultimates.
Travolta, but with 6 glowing eyes.
It's the kind of the situation where self-destruct is just one of the really good tools to use against a Transcendence. And the other
exactly.
part of the equation for me, I talk about the coin flip of issues for Flash Wolves, is actually on the support side. So Realment on Village and then also Realment on Shrine. He was so close to getting a sound barrier on Village, but just never could really get there. A couple of crucial picks every time, and then died with sound barrier on Shrine as well. I just didn't feel like the sound barriers really came out when they needed to.
Now Blank getting the hybrid pick for map 2, going to be taking us to Eichenwalde. This is an interesting one actually, because generally speaking, I would say Flash Wolves have actually had stronger performances than Blank on Eichenwalde. I also believe, if I'm not mistaken, these teams have not met on Eichenwalde before, or indeed if they had, it's a very, very long time ago now in Season 1.
Yeah.
This is interesting to me because the fear right now for Flash Wolves must be that you won the first map of Nepal, then you lost the next 2 in more and more convincing fashion. You don't want Blank to just seem to get stronger and stronger and stronger over the series and 3-0 you. Eichenwalde being untested territory actually increases that fear, in my opinion.
Actually, I think for Eichenwalde, it's a favored map for Flash Wolves. Coming out of Season 1, this was one of their best maps. And we talk about hybrid. Eichenwalde, I think they had an incredibly good win rate. I'm going to have to check the stats on exactly what that was, but this was incredibly solid for them, especially on the defense. They were very good defensively on Eichenwalde, just knew their way around this map extremely well. For Blank, they barely ever played it, so untested. I think for Flash Wolves, a bit more of a known quantity. It is, however, untested for Blank, and that's an issue for me.
Yeah, I think what it should say, if nothing else, is that Blank prepared this. I mean, they wouldn't pick this if they hadn't, right? And that means they're prepared at being aware of Flash Wolves' record on this map. And when you put all those factors into place, personally, that means I'm expecting good things out of Blank here. And that's why, like I say, I feel like if you're Flash Wolves, you have to really fear this series running away from you now. You have to really pull out all the stops here on Eichenwalde.
Absolutely. I think you're right about that, because for Blank, you wouldn't go into this map unless you had something up the sleeve. So that being said, my expectations for Blank are a little bit higher now for this specific map, because it does appear they need to show everyone exactly why they want to come here, knowing that it is potentially Flash Wolves territory. On another hand, I feel like Hybrid was one of the maps they struggled against from the Hong Kong Attitude match. They lost the King's Row against Hong Kong Attitude. Maybe looking to dodge a King's Row for that kind of reason.
Possibly.
We'll have to see.
And maybe it's as simple as don't want to go to King's Row, don't want to go to Numbani, let's go to Eichenwalde.
And one of the reasons they lost the Hong Kong Attitude was actually the McCree, so I'd like to see what Zonda gets done on this.
Yeah, this will be interesting. You're completely right there. And they're going to be running the McCree Doomfist as well, so that will be Bacon Jack on that. We'll have to see if he can go up.
That's why.
Already picking up Husk. Indeed it is why. So Blank have to really just back off. And as I say that, Eat You Up going down as well, they are severely lacking in the DPS department. Just going to need to maybe back off, give Flash Wolves a bit of space, but they lose Gunvet as well. Not quite backing off safely as they lose Trill, and that is going to be a point cap for Flash.
And I like this for Flash Wolves because it's then turning over a chapter and saying, look, the loss onto Nepal, that's not going to affect us. We have a consistency on winning those opening fights. That's going to be the case again. We're going to prove that we can continue to do that. And we just mentioned McCree, and they show exactly straight off the bat exactly how McCree works against Blank and why Blank are weak to this.
Now we have to see what the Doomfist is able to do on this Streets phase of Eichenwalde, because this is where the Doomfist has really changed how this map gets played, and to that end, Blank haven't quite got this high ground set up.
Certainly, both teams have the mobility to get a lot done here, but I'm looking for Blank to make the move on this initial push. As the cart makes its way past that archway, Blank can't afford to give away too much free cart push here. It's really on them to make the opening play.
And by the way, Zonda is giving Gunba ult charge here. Trill is letting himself be seen so that he can take 1 or 2 shots, knowing that he gets healed up. So they now get closer to Transcendence than they would have otherwise, and should be able to match Flash Wolves a little bit better on that front.
Well, Sinclair's about to hit one of his own. The ultimates come up first for Flash Wolves, so this could be very awkward timing.
That's aggressive.
And Blank want to go now.
They do, but they lose Trill, and that's also the ultimate out of Sinclair anyway. Sound barrier is there, but everyone ducks and hides as the Deadeye gets channeled. So, yeah, good zoning indeed. And great flashbang onto RQT. Transcendence will not save him. Blank still fighting from behind as they're struggling to kind of open up in this fight. Look for Realman indeed. Bacon Jack in with the Meteor Strike, gets Eat You Up, and knocks Gunver with the 1-2 punch. Gonna close out now on Huwoo's mech, and then Huwoo himself with a solid left hook there, and that is gonna be the payload underway. Blank, no contest.
And we're seeing why Flash Wolves won Sanctum, but was off the back of a lot of Bacon Jack's plays on the Doomfist, so maybe he's lacking on the Tracer. He makes up for that today on this Doomfist as well. We look at Realman. I said look at Realman because he had that sound barrier. He was misfiring on that before, but he used it at the right time this time. So for Blank, unable to find an opening, and they can't even get out of this door.
Sinclair is just like sitting there like an artillery piece for the longest time. And actually Blank weren't able to bust out of that door. So now as the payload approaches the cap, they may not be able to contest it at all.
Are they coming?
Eat You Up.
What was that, Blank?
Stuck on the wrong side of that and couldn't break out of the base either. They opted to not commit, and it's cost them.
And the worst part about that is they ended up still committing anyway, and they lost 3 members, so they wanted to go for the commit. They wanted to sort of the cart, prevent it from capping through. They put the members on, didn't stop the cart, and then lost those members anyway. So for Flash Wolves, they've just been pushing on through. This has been a very casual Sunday drive for them with this artillery.
Yeah, casual Sunday drive.
When you drive your battering ram through a guy's car.
I do that most Sundays, to be honest. RQT already going down to the battering ram of Bacon Jack. Well, I'll join you. And Bacon Jack gets another one for good measure against his counterpart in Husk. And already, again, Flash Wolves just in the driver's seat of this fight, and indeed of the whole map so far. Trill dies before Bacon Jack can kill him. Like, that's what's going on here.
I think we found the answer, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Doomfist and McCree combo, McFist, if you want to call it that, McDoom.
Please
otherwise,
don't call it McFist.
Well, other people do, so deal with it.
Sounds like the worst deal ever to come out of McDonald's. But Flash Wolves still picking up these kills on the back end of this one now as Blank trying to just stall it out with the Primal Rage and the Sound Barrier, but now with those exhausted, the Deadeye is looking to secure this one out. They kind of had to duck and hide while still trying to contest the cart. They get RQT with it, and they're still getting other kills in the mix as well. Huwoo going down in there. The last man on the point. They are going to kill Jongi for good measure, but they are going to lose their last 2 DPS. Folk here, and Blank will lose the icon ball. Words are hard.
Especially German words.
Icon mode. I'm not good at normally I'm actually really good at German. I shouldn't say that at all. But yes, unfortunately, Blank not really putting up much of a fight there. And Flash Wolves with, I believe it was close to 4 minutes left on the clock there as they capped.
That just kind of felt like a little bit of a non-contest in terms of the defense because...
It was like when the Omnics attacked Eichenwald.
That was a pretty competitive fight. I don't know. Not gonna be too sure on the lore of that, but the second point was really where I gotta make the distinction because usually the most difficult part of the push on the second cap is on that bridge. Getting past that bridge, getting across the bridge is very hard to do. And Blank kind of just let that one happen. Flash Wolves push on through quite merrily. Blank tried to get the final contest in there, mistimed it, lost a bunch of members. That then handed over the momentum once again to Flash Wolves. They got past the door, got around the first corner very easily because the next hardest point to attack through on that third cap is actually that sort of first corner. A lot of teams do a really good hold there. So Flash Wolves, they kind of just get past some of the hardest points very easily, a lot easier than they should have.
Now Blank going to be on their own attack. And we have seen them struggle a little bit at times on the offense of Hybrid. Certainly, they are not a team that consistently first pushes the point and caps it out straight away. And that is exactly what Flash Wolves did to them. So really, they kind of have to if they want to finish with anything close to a competitive time. And that is, of course, not including the run they would have to then have on Street Space. So still winnable for Blank. They can still push it to Time Bank, but it is a big ask.
And honestly, the defense on Eichenwald is actually where I think Flash was really good. Traditionally, how they've been good at that is, funnily enough, if you believe it, Torbjorn Arista, so they're not going to do that today. They're going to stick onto the composition that has been working. But even if they have one good fight here for Flash Wolves, that's already a good lead they can take on through.
I would like to remind everyone, though, that Torbjorn Arista was against Sun Sister.
It was against everybody.
It was against, you're quite right, and actually, unfortunately,
they beat everybody.
Unfortunately, losing Gunba in the setup there, very bad news for them. And Zonda able to retreat safely, just barely, but it counts.
So far, this is just time gone. So every bit of time that Flash Wolves buy, this really adds up.
The overextension actually punished a little bit there. Bacon Jack and Jongi were keen to dive. It may not be something Blank can capitalize on straight away, and indeed they do still have to set up. Bacon Jack can regroup very, very quickly, but they lose Jongi as well. So it will take a little bit longer than getting on that first push, but Blank now well set up as they route out Zonda. Yeah. That was like no contest out of Zonda as they do actually pick up Huss as Bacon Jack rejoins the fight. Can absolutely turn this one around as Huwu kind of funnels into a room and loses his mech. Needs to be careful here as Bacon Jack is getting himself topped off. Now sound barrier out. They want to stay in this fight as they close out on Huwu and Eat You Up both. And Blank closing out on a couple of key kills but not getting the rest. And Flash Wolves just kind of reinforcing there. They did get 2/3 there, but they're still going to waste more time as they have to come in for yet
Exactly.
another push.
Even if they get this push on through now after the 2/3, if they get the cap on through now, they're severely limited in what they have to work with for the rest of the map. Zondo dying there, that was a little bit awkward, but Bacon Jack kept himself alive. That was important for Flash Wolves holding on to cap 8.
It's the ultimate out of Huss to save his life. 9 HP. He's going to have to go down into a Transcendence. He at least does have that out of Gunba, but it's now run out as Sinclair commits his own, and they have to stay safe through the Dead-Eye. Thus through that one now, as they still need to find their way in. No ultimates remaining.
Oh, that headshot.
That's a headshot and a half onto Eat You Up. But they even up the DPS numbers now as they take down Zonda, and Trill goes aggressive. Still need to keep tabs on Bacon Jack, but Huss could just as equally go off. Not anymore, he's dead to the self-destruct. And the self-destruct now out of Huwu will catch Realmond. They're starting to force Bacon Jack out of this one, but they're still struggling to close out as now Jongi has his ult, can hold down the fort. And as we say, if you kill Zonda and you kill Bacon Jack, you've still got to kill Jongi. And Blank do not have the upper hand still in this fight and are just losing even more time.
And it seems like Blank can actually find Zonda in the majority of these fights. The play they're not finding is Bacon Jack. This guy isn't really dying. The one time Bacon Jack did die, Blank didn't really capitalize fast enough. They couldn't get a push in before Bacon Jack really reinforced. The rest of Flash Wolves held on to that. Even the Primal Rage now from Jongi did a lot of work for delaying Blank Esports. So 1 minute 15 left. This is just so dire.
And it's funny, Doomfist is like the worst person to kill early because he can reinforce so quickly. Now with Huss low and the sound barrier already out, they commit. They do get Bacon Jack, but like I said, can recommit quickly. IQT's dead. I Eat You Up is now dead. Blank, they need to get something big out of Huss and Trill both here. They commit with the Transcendence and are desperately looking for it, but Sinclair's got his own Transcendence, and that means they can't quite kill Zonda. They've demexed K-Momo, and that could be a saving grace, but they still can't get the aggression onto Zonda, who is now getting back onto the point itself. They do need to constantly contest it though, because of those 2/3 gain. Huwu with the double. Oh, that's going to secure it. And now Blank, having secured it thanks to the self-destruct, are going to get a whole bunch of kills off the back of it. It was a bit of a hero play. It's certainly not a guaranteed thing, but Blank make it happen. That's what counts.
It was a good play in the context of the situation, which is actually you capped it enough after the 2/3 that one self-destruct that makes Flash Wolves run away, stops them from contesting the cap itself. That's what gets you the cap on through, because otherwise, Realman had a sound barrier, Zonda had a Jedi as well, Flash Wolves had options to continue that defense, and they probably would have if it weren't for the fact that the self-destruct forced them off the point and killed the 2 members that tried to stay.
So now in order to remain competitive in this game, they have to get a similarly fast Streets phase, which means they just want to move the cart and force Flash Wolves to come to them. That is indeed what they're happy to do, and they pick Eat You Up. Huss is going to have the Meteor Strike for safety, goes up to in front of Zonda. I think he was maybe looking for a pick, but unfortunately loses his life. Luckily though, the rest of Blank have been absolutely handing it to Flash Wolves on the slow ground, and actually Jongi used the ultimate to get away, so they are indeed going to get that much needed momentum.
And I think for Flash Wolves as well, they're looking for at least 2 fights during the Streets phase. That's already going to be 2 more than Blank ever has. Zonda early is not going to help them out at all. I think they will still soar because they have a sound barrier, so expect to commit regardless.
Absolutely expect to commit, but RQT's not far from his own, and Realman dies before he can sound barrier. The Huss did go down to Bacon Jack, which is big for them. Self-destruct going in from K-Momo doesn't find much, and Blank now losing both their DPS members means this should get repelled. They want to commit to this, and I don't know that I agree with that now that Trill is dead as well. Really, this is just going to give up a lot of time and a lot of ult charge to the Flash Wolves.
Yeah, it certainly does. The Flash Wolves used a couple of ults there. They still hold on to a couple of ultimates, and now they're on the chase. If they can demake Uru here, this is going to waste a lot of time. They get RQT anyway, so they get a consolation prize. Every single kill here really counts, bleeding down that time, but we're now almost back to 115. 115 was the final push for Blank onto A. Now it looks like the final push for them onto B, and certainly with much less distance on the card, much less progress on the actual objective.
And I like this positioning from Flash Wolves as well, because they know they've got the tactical visor. So Blank have to fight through this setup, plus Zonda on the high ground, before they can even think about getting to the cart. And they lose Gunba off the top of it as well. Does not get saved by the sound barrier. They need to find their way onto this cart and still deal with these DPS members.
And it was an early enough sound barrier that it's not going to block out any damage from Zonda as well. So the tools for Flash Wolves are still there. They still have everything they need to actually close this one out. And Blank Esports are falling apart. 40 seconds now. They absolutely only have one more push, and that push is going to happen most likely in the overtime. So we said that bridge area is the most difficult area for an attack to push. Now, not only do they have to get past that against Flash Wolves ultimates, they're doing it in overtime.
And this is what Flash Wolves have been doing this season. I call it cutting off the column. They wait for the other team to be setting up, and then they hit them on the side. And this is great positioning from Zonda. Doesn't quite get anything with the Helix Rocket, but he's ready to put out the pressure. That means Gunba has to use the Transcendence just so they can get in the fight. Realment matches with a sound barrier, and now Sinclair has his own Transcendence as Zonda opens up for free. Hasn't got anything just yet, and is getting pressured off, but they close out on Gunba now. Zonda doesn't get anything with the Tac Visor, but look at where this cart is sat. Good bump onto Sinclair, actually, to kind of even up the score a little bit, but they lose Eat You Up, and this is looking dire. It is all on Husk, but he's got no health. Now it's all on Huwu, and he's just one Diva, does not have a self-destruct to play with here, and Jongi's still got this ultimate running. Now Huwu is the one taking all the heat and all the pressure. The sound barrier buys them time, but it is not time they can do anything with, as Trill has even swapped onto the Soldier so that they can throw some extra damage into the fight. But honestly, Flash Wolves seem to have this one on lockdown. It is going to take a miracle or more for Blank. Oh my goodness! A miracle or more is I You Up's Pulse Bomb. They're back underway.
They're definitely doing this, but now they need spawn control. They need to make sure no one can come out of the spawn to contest. Flash Wolves no longer have ultimates. I guess neither do Blanks. So this is just going to be a straight-up brawl. But for Blank Esports, they don't have a Winston. They don't have enough tank pressure. Flash Wolves, if they get explosive, they can just blow Blank out of the water.
Flash Wolves are actually seeding this, it seems. No, they're not. Finally coming for the contest. And they picked Huss at the top of that as well. That's big. No response kill. Get Eat Up, Blank. Eat Up, trying to go up, but he goes down to Bacon Jack. That's now so huge as Kemomo commits the self-destruct to secure it for their team. It creates the space. The overtime disappears. Flash Wolves even it up 1-1 on Eichenwald.
Absolutely, and we talk about, look, where was Bacon Jack on the pole? His Tracer was absent, but his Doomfist was there. Now he's coming back on Eichenwald making a statement. You missed out on me on the pole. This is what I'm capable of. Don't forget that I'm still in this game, and he absolutely was in this game. Also speak about Zonda's performance on McCree as well. That was pretty lightning effective, especially against members like Huss and Eat Up.
That was incredible. This is going to be the self-destruct that secured the first point for them. And look, even securing the first point was a bit of a struggle for Blank. Indeed, had it not been for that self-destruct, this may not have been a guaranteed cap. It was the fact that they had those 2/3, and like you said, had actually pushed it up far enough in that final third that Flash Wolves moving off the points to avoid the self-destruct was what kind of tipped the scales there. So that was certainly not a comfortable cap, I think I would say, for Blank. And even beyond that, the only reason they were able to get it back underway and be in contention for capping out point B as well was a similar situation with I Eat You Up kind of getting a miracle pulse bomb. Again, not comfortable territory, especially right off the back of that Nepal.
All right, so 1-1 now, the score between the two teams. Blank drew first blood on Nepal. Flash Wolves now respond with their own on Eichenwald. And the thing that I want to be able to really point out here in this matchup so far, and I guess kind of in the moments of Nepal, if we want to look at Sanctum, where Flash Wolves have been winning, Blank have only been keeping themselves in the game through miracle plays. So Blank have been this magician team across OPC Season 2 so far. You look at some of the other matches they played, they sort of come out ahead in situations they don't. They pull out a massive play from one of their members individually that maybe shouldn't happen, but it's big and it's impactful. That happened on Eichenwald, but when they didn't have those plays, they were always behind.
And by the way, it did technically happen on Nepal Sanctum as well, where Huwu got an incredible bunch of kills.
Exactly.
He got a point cap, but that wasn't actually enough to win the game. That's the thing. That's not something you can rely on as a team, unfortunate as that may be. You do need to get that extra going off, and that's what we saw on Nepal Shrine rather. It was this constant lockdown from especially I Eat You Up, but The fact that they weren't able to then pull that out again on a different map type is potentially a problem. We now move into Assault, which is again going to be Flash Wolf's pick, and we always come back to this, is traditionally speaking, Blank's weakest map mode, and their strongest being Control was a win. They weren't able to get that hybrid middle ground, so you start to question Blank's own aptitude in this series.
And certainly we're going to make it to at least 4 maps here, so we expected this to be very competitive, and that's exactly what it is.
Delivered.
Between the first and second place teams from OPC Season 1, I'm kind of expecting nothing less than out of these two teams, and it has been back and forth. Look, it was Blank looking very comfortable in Nepal in the later stages, and then Eichenwald, it was all Flash Wolves. Now, the question that we had at the top of Eichenwald was, why pick this into Flash Wolves? Because we know it's a good map for Flash Wolves. They wanted to come in and make a statement. We said maybe they had something practice, they had something to show. I'm not too sure we saw that.
I really don't think we did at all. They struggled on the defense through and through at every single stage of the way. They struggled on their own offense as well. It was just this really kind of messy, muddy territory, and maybe it was just that they weren't comfortable going anywhere else. But in any case, they can cross Eichenwald off that list of places we can safely take Flash Wolves.
Absolutely, as we're about to head into map 3 now. Don't forget the scoreline is 1-1, so either team can still take it home. The Blank versus Flash Wolves rematch comes back right after this break. Thank you for sticking through that break with us as we're about to head into map number 3 of the Blank versus Flash Wolves rematch. So far 1-1 in the series, and look, Flash Wolves very, very good on Icon Wall, but Blank muscling them out on Nepal.
Yeah, so, I mean, the biggest takeaway from that is probably that it's been a competitive series so far.
Yeah.
That's pretty fair to say. And I think we expected that as well. This is, I say again, a rematch of Season 1 Finals. A Finals that Flash Wolves won, being a best of 3 of best of 7. So they didn't just win it, they won it in a 2-0 of those best of 7s, with the first one itself being a 4-0. It was a resounding win, but already this is looking like it'll be a tighter series than that Finals itself. And it is still totally anyone's guess who's going to be the better of it.
And it does seem like, you know, the storyline for the tournament so far has been everyone has kind of stepped up. That's Blank included, with the new members coming in, which, by the way, Horizon Lunar Colony is going to be the map pick. And, like, that is, by the way, Infinite Flashbang versus Infinite Bubble Shield. Yeah, I think Projected Barrier wins that one.
Well, there's your answer. It does.
But Flash Wolves seem like the one team that are more likely just at the same level they were after OPC Season 1. They don't look like they've really made the leaps and bounds other teams have had. That being said, they were so far ahead of teams in Season 1 that they are still ahead now, because other teams have made the leaps and bounds, but they still seem like they're catching up to Flash Wolves. That's why Machi couldn't do it. That's why Hong Kong Attitude couldn't do it, despite how close they were.
And that's the thing, as much as this is a rematch of the Season 1 Finals, a lot has happened in that time. Namely, both of these teams went to World Cup. Blank had a slightly different incarnation. They had what was actually their Season 1 lineup. Blank, at least Team Australia, made it through their groups. Flash Wolves didn't. Now, the groups were completely different. There is a lot of other things you could say about that, but at the end of the day, the gist is Flash Wolves kind of underperformed with this exact roster that they've still got, and they carried a little bit of that back into Season 2 here. So like you said, they're not necessarily much worse than Season 1. I personally would wager that they are a little bit worse than Season 1, but I think by now, honestly, they've returned to that form. They were just leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else, but yes, everyone else has totally caught up. This fresh new Blank lineup that has made those improvements that you were talking about in that time since those finals is absolutely taking it to them here, and they're not going to be the only ones this tournament.
And it does still feel like Blank with a sort of young roster, in the sense of it is a newer roster for the team. They haven't reached 17. They haven't reached their potential yet. It feels like they haven't met that ceiling, and that kind of says to me, when we get to week 6, when we get to week 9, depending on how far Blank get through this tournament, how good are they going to be at the end of OPC Season 2? Because right now they're going toe-to-toe with Flash Wolves, at least for the time being, unless of course Flash Wolves just 3-1 and them and shut the door. But we'll have to kind of find that out.
Indeed. I think the big question that's going to be hanging over most of these top 4 teams is, will one of them lose their top 4 spot to Hong Kong Attitude? That's probably
or another team.
Yeah, or indeed another team. Right now, you'd say Hong Kong Attitude. That'll be the big nail biter, but it's certainly possible for these two teams to both make it into that top 4, both make it into playoffs, and arguably both meet each other again in finals. So that's very much the potential trajectory of these two teams, regardless of tonight's result. But hello.
And we do often say, look, when we look at Flash Wolves, if we want to beat Flash Wolves, you've got to beat the real Flash Wolves, and that always includes the Soldier Tracer. So, Blank, got to get past this one too.
But they have got the I Eat You Up Widowmaker special. Us going aggressive there, and that means I Eat You Up kind of gets nicely set up here, going to be able to cover all these sight lines.
Actually very aggressive.
Yeah. It is very aggressive, and he keeps a lot of pressure on Flash Wolves here, who are now kind of split off from this point. Can't really maneuver onto it the way they want because of the sightlines I Eat You Up covers, and this is a very low-key open.
And they're definitely forcing Blank, they're definitely forcing Flash Wolves into a bit of a
corner
here,
wow.
as Husk gets the first kill, but the trade immediately coming on through. So for Flash Wolves, they got to get their opening quick.
It is on Flash Wolves to aggress onto Blank here. But the difference is Eat You Up himself won't be on the point. So 1-for-1 is still actually a numbers advantage for Flash Wolves unless Eat You Up is getting picks, which by the way, he has not so far.
And Zonda challenging Eat Up there as well, saying, you want to snipe me, I'm going to shoot you back as a soldier nonetheless. So for Flash Wolves, they hold on despite losing Bacon Jack earlier. Quick trade onto Gumba was definitely very good, but you're right. Blank have only 5 members to actually physically approach Flash Wolves. And so far, that hasn't worked.
Good pick onto Jongi though, but they trade it again for Trill. So that means they struggle a little bit on this dive. They need to be converting a lot more than this. And as much as Flash Wolves have to back up, they are able to constantly back up and lick their wounds. The same cannot be said for Blank.
And we're actually at the stage now where Flash Wolves have ultimate, so even if Blank commit, look, Flash Wolves have so much more to use.
Nano Visor straight onto it means they're able to take down Huss. That's the full 100-0 out of Zonda alone. And that one pick, sure it's 2 ultimates for just the 1 kill, but it stops up Blank altogether, and they're not converting much out of this Widowmaker.
They're actually buying a lot of time, Kyun. You're absolutely right. Not getting anything out of Widowmaker. It may be time, and as I say it, Eat is going to swap back onto the Tracer. So this is something a little bit more comfortable for Blank, and they need that front lane pressure. They need to break through the front gates of Flash Wolves. You're not going to do that with a Widowmaker. You might just do that with a Tracer, though.
So far, this is very different to what we saw out of, for example, Libel and Matchy earlier tonight on Horizon, or indeed other teams that have played Flash Wolves on Horizon Lunar Colony. Blank are having a bit of a hard time cracking this egg open, but this could be the one as they have the ultimates up. Yeah, early Transcendence out of both Realman and indeed Gunba, but it's Huss who's able to convert the kills. Had to Meteor Strike for safety, but you'll get one off the back end of it and be happy about it as he looks to DMEC K-Momo. Finds Sinclair with the right hook for good measure. Wasn't even looking for him as they take out Jongi and K-Momo both. That is the explosive fight Blank needed.
I'm glad we stuck on Huss throughout all of that because he was the one that picked up all the kills. He got the opening that Blank was looking for, and now the camp finally comes on through. The difficulty here is they're going to get it with roughly 1 minute remaining, so not the best time onto A, and Flash Wolves still very good on the defense. 5 minutes now for Blank. They got to get a lot of momentum off this. Unfortunately for them, Flash Wolves still got ultimates to play with, still charging more ultimates as we speak.
And getting that momentum, and also sticking solidly on that point B to close out the cap is what Blank have often struggled with in the past, but they're looking to get the pressure on. Idiop just kind of forcing Flash Wolves into a tight spot here, but he needs to be careful. Bacon Jack hunts him down. They do trade one in taking out Realman, but they're going to need to get a lot more than that. Get zoned out now by the self-destruct as Trill in a lot of trouble as well is going to go down. No trade back on the Jongi, and actually Blank may just have to take that one on the chin, except that they're not getting a third, and indeed that is what happens, and Zonda cleans them up for good measure.
And they're still losing members as well, so Flash Wolves, not only did they realize, look, Blank is stuck in here, but they're also going to stop Blank from being able to retreat, cut the retreating lines, make sure there's no fallback path, and they cleaned up about 5 members there, if not the full team wipe, despite it being staggered. So a lot of time now, 1 minute gone already. We saw, look, Blank finished with only 1 minute remaining, 1 minute off the clock, now it's only 4.
Big dive from Trill, but eat you up with a huge pulse bomb catches too, one of which was the ulting Zonda, and this should surely be a third for them as they have those 3 members down, needing to close out on Bacon Jack, but Bacon Jack is kind of off to the backside of this, can't really contest the point much himself and needs to be extremely careful. So that should be, like I said, a third going over. They DMEC K-Momo. Need to close out, yeah. They need to close out Jongi before he can retreat. Indeed, he does actually retreat and will now be able to stall, but they at least close out on K-Momo. Now here comes the potential stabilization from Flash Wolves as 2/3 are picked up, but Blank have deep pockets here. Jongi forced to use the Primal Rage. Bacon Jack is finally able to re-enter the fight, but Huss looking to get aggressive on this backside. They trade Zenyatta's for Zenyatta's here, as Huss back onto the point itself, couldn't find the picks and gets picked in the exposed spot in the middle of the point, as Flash Wolves with the sound barrier looking like they will indeed stabilize. Closing out on Trill, IDU up going to go down as well. 2/3 cap for Blank is happy days, but they do still need to get that third point.
And a lot of criticism towards Realman in the early stage of this matchup. Sound barriers weren't really on point this time around. They have been. The saving Flash Wolves at the critical moment. 2 ticks did go on through for Blank Esports, so with 2 minutes and 50 seconds remaining, absolutely possible for them to finish this map. But unfortunately, I don't know if it's going to be a good time.
Huss getting one clipped by Bacon Jack there. Absolutely devastating. So yeah, gonna lose even more time for that and give Flash Wolves even more ult charge.
That's the thing, like, you need big plays to get into this, and so far Blank Esports have been getting distance off of big plays. Either it's IE you up with the pulse bomb, or it's going to be Who with the self-destruct, but this time Bacon Jack just wants to close the door on everything.
Yeah, one clips Huss, gets a stick on RQT. He has single-handedly burned a minute off the clock here.
And we talk about, where was this Tracer play on the pull? Where was Bacon Jack for the majority of this match? Certainly it wasn't on Tracer. Now he's back onto Tracer. It is Horizon Lunar Colony, and this is what we expected earlier from him, and he's doing it now.
Yeah, where was he on Nepal? Well, he had his head up in space is where it was. He was on the moon the whole time. Huss looking to get the bump up on Jongi, but he loses his life for it. They do get the pick on Jongi, but they need to get more than that. They commit the Transcendence and force out Sinclair's one as well. Pulse Bomb out from Eat You Up did get a good kill as well as Huru making space. They're actually actually getting good kills through here, but K-Moment with the self-destruct could zone a lot out, but no, he does not, as they lose Zonda, and now Flash Wolves, they were maybe a little bit too far away from the point, maybe didn't respect that only a third was left. They do lose Trill here, Blank, but they are killing Flash Wolves as they respawn. They need to close out Bacon Jack. That's the way you do it, Huss, and that is going to be the secure for Blank. It was hard fought, but 1 minute 30 remaining is nothing to laugh at if you are Flash Wolves. They did give up that cap in the end, and it was their aggressive positioning that allowed it.
Absolutely, and the thing that I have to question there from Flash Wolves' gameplay was they went for that very aggressive defense into almost blank spawn territory, not quite, but they went into that sort of no man's land, that sort of green area just before Cap B. And on paper, that's kind of good. You're wasting a lot of Blank's time there. You're taking the fight away from the objective, which is where Blank want to be taking the fight. But unfortunately, they got wiped very early there. That's not good defensive positioning. You don't have preferable defensive positioning if you're Flash Wolves. So they took a bit of a risk. It started to pay off because they killed Huss, but they couldn't convert that into a team fight win. And Eat Up just cleaned them up.
Exactly, and the risk of doing that is you need to be the first person to get kills, and it needs to be a lot. Even a trade kill isn't necessarily a good thing, because if you lose a member first, you kind of have to retreat, and you have an unfavorable retreat path because the enemy team is on the aggressive. So you're trying to fight them off while you're also retreating. It is very, very difficult. And this is what Flash Wolves have been doing against most of the teams in this tournament. Heck, they even got away with it against Hong Kong Attitude, close as that series was, and AHQ. But this is neither of those teams. This is the team that met them in the Season 1 finals. This is a team that is going to punish that sort of positioning.
And despite that ending that we just saw into Camp B, overall, that was a very successful defense from Flash Wolves. They had a very long A. Eat Up couldn't find anything with the Widowmaker. It was 1 minute and 15 remaining when Blank finally won and capped out the point. And then, 1 minute 30 left to cap B. So overall, Flash Wolves, they burnt so much time off of Blank's timer.
Absolutely. I would actually kind of take the opposite opinion personally, in that I feel like that was a good, an overall good offense by Blank. Mainly because they've traditionally struggled on Assault, and them being able to kind of push through that is a good sign for them. But this is now the other side of that coin. It will be Blank on the defense, seeing how well they can hold off against this incredibly aggressive Flash Wolf squad.
And it is Bacon Jack now back on the Doomfist as well. We've already praised the Doomfist. Now he's redeemed himself on the Tracer, and certainly...
Oh, good follow-up from Eat You Up.
Well, Eat You Up saying I'm still pretty good on the Tracer, so why not?
Just by the way.
But it is a trade, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
Flash Wolves have consistently made trades, even if Blank get the first pick. That's been happening all across Horizon.
And Zonda's actually uncontested. That's really the key thing here. Now he's able to open up on Eat You Up. Huss and Trill had to go into full retreat so they could heal up by RQT. Since Gunba was dead, they couldn't get that quick healing. Now the pick off on Huss, and Flash Wolves, much faster than what Blank were able to do, are looking like they're going to be able to crack this one wide open. D-meching Huwu now, actually not quite. There we go, finally closing it out and get RQT in that for good measure. Blank could still try and recontest, but I feel like it would maybe be a mistake at this point.
Yeah, it does feel that way.
And Eat You Up getting a bit closer than was at all necessary with the cap already gone over. This is now snowball territory.
Yeah, absolutely. The momentum's so important. If they lose,
he already just got back in it. What was Huwu standing there for, getting back in the mech? He could have retreated further.
And this is now an issue because Zonda's tac visoring open now. The cap, one tick is about to go on through. All the rest of ultimates, look at the lights up for Flash Wolves. There's so many. Blank Esports, they're staggered.
Trill at least buys them time with the ultimate, and that lets them get the sound barrier off, but they are still trying to stabilize. They are not back in command of this fight, and Flash Wolves are now the ones with more ultimates available. Huss has to go off, and Huwu has to buy a ton of time with the self-destruct that he doesn't even have yet, and in fact will not get before he gets the mech. And Flash Wolves still deep in the pocket here, 2/3 indeed, as they still have the positioning, they're still in the ultimates, and the members of Blank are just dropping like flies as they pour out of the base. That's going to be a cap through for Flash Wolves in spectacular fashion with 6 minutes on the clock to Blank's measly 1.5.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Blank Assault Freeload, because look, for Flash Wolves, ridiculous attack there. Blitz their way through A, blitz their way through B. You are right. What were Blank doing? They were trying to come back in when they had no business to. They've been punished for that before. We've seen Ardian being punished for that by AHQ. Of course, Flash Wolves is going to take you down for that. Then they push on through to B. All the ultimates come on at the crucial time, and Blank, no response, staggered straight away. And now you're looking into the face of the most ridiculous time bank Flash Wolves could have possibly have hoped for.
Like I said, what on earth was Huwu doing remaking there? Good on him for getting out of the fight in Pilot Diva and being able to charge that mech back up. That's no mean feat. I will give him that. He successfully retreated. but then totally mispositioned. That was actually maybe recoverable had it not been for that, because the time it took for Flash Wolves to finish off that cap and then get to point B was the time that I82up needed to respawn, along with, I believe it was Trill who had just died. But Huwu going down, it meant it was a 3-on-6 by the time Flash Wolves are on the point, and it was just unwinnable from there.
And even in the early stages of that defense, when it was very even, look, we trade members very quickly, and that's kind of the thing, because Flash Wolves, you never just get away with killing one of their members. They get somebody back. In that case, it was Gumba. Then they keep the attack on going. By the way, the trades work in Flash Wolves' favor because of respawn distance, the reinforcement distance, much worse for the defense for Blank.
Now, only a minute and a half to cap this first point. Need to do it quickly and need to force more time bank. Then on their own defense, they're going to have to bleed a ton of Flash Wolves. This massive clock here. So let's see. Yeah, AVRL already low. They're trying to get onto the point. That's a good opener, actually, picking Jongi, and they're starting to punish again this aggressive positioning from Flash Wolves. Need to get another pick so they can get on the point, though.
They definitely need to make usage of time here. They kind of feel like you just killed a member. I think you need to really raise the aggression here. Get yourself on the cap, and this is the kind of trade we talk about.
Huslo, he's going to go down. It is another 1-for-1 as they pick Sinclair, but they need to close out on Bacon Jack, and it's just that classic Tracer 1 versus 1. Bacon Jack does get pressured out, but AVRL's only one guy. They get a third, that's something. But if they got repelled now, which Flash Wolves can very much do, they've regrouped. That's a huge DMAC.
That's a big
Oh, that is massive! And that's going to be the re-aggress now. AVRL does at least get K-Momo, but they're going to need to get a ton out of the DPSs alive, and it's just these 3 members. Hus can't go down here, but he will go down to Jongi, as Zonda just getting so much done even as he goes down in that fight. This is just super, super rough.
And RQT has sound barrier here, but I don't think it's going to be enough because, you know, there's just not enough members reinforcing here. And for Flash Wolves, this looks like it should be successful.
It indeed is. Flash Wolves holding out now on the last little bit. This is the only fight they have left to win. This is the last chance here for Blank. It's AVRL trying to get the work done. Tactical Visor wreaks havoc, but Hus gets Bacon Jack. That's crucial. Forces the Transcendence out of Sinclair. Gunba has already committed his self-destruct, buying a little bit of space now as they're trying desperately to get onto this point. Hus goes down. Huwu's got a self-destruct, and AVRL finally starts to open up on this backline. Bacon Jack and Jongi could still go off, but not when Jongi's dead. And now it's only Bacon Jack, and maybe, just maybe, they have to see this one because Blank have done it. They have pushed them out and are going to cap point A.
In overtime, nonetheless, and Blank Esports on their final legs. It looked like they needed America once more. They're able to put a White Rabbit out of the hat, but how many magic tricks do Blank have left? 22 seconds. We've seen Liblin Supreme get the same push against Machi, but Blank, can they do it against Flash Wolves? It's a much taller order.
Much taller indeed. 10 seconds, snowball or bust, and all they've got to do it
they've already
is
left someone.
self-destruct, but Gunba is dead. Huwu commits the self-destruct, gets nothing for it. I82up needs a miracle pulse bomb. He does pick Sinclair, so they at least go even. They've closed out a Bacon Jack as well. Pulse bomb, unfortunately, does not connect, and now Hus gets pushed out. They're looking like they probably won't get a third from this, short of a miracle, and Jongi has the stall tool in that Primal Rage now. So Realman does go down. Zonda does get pressured out, but they've killed AVRL. They've killed the crucial members. Gumba's got onto Soldier just to get the extra damage, but Bacon Jack closes him out. No third for Blank on point B. It was miracle enough that they capped point A, but they still have to hold out for 6 whole minutes. It is going to be a marathon effort.
Absolutely, and for Blank, look, if you want any opportunity to try and win Horizon Lunar Colony, capping A, critical for that. Without capping A, this would probably just be a free win for Flash Wolves, but now they have an opportunity, but they gotta make it count because Flash Wolves, they have about 6 minutes to get this done, and that is more than enough time.
That is, yeah, more than enough time indeed. A huge amount of time, in fact. And, I mean, we mentioned it at the end. Like, Blank were masters of their own demise on their first defense. What they've done here is redeem themselves a little bit. So, I mean, there's the second of those 2 R's that they were talking about on Twitter, but you don't want to get yourself back in the fight, right? You don't want to just have a chance to hold on. You want to have not made that mistake in the first place.
It's certainly a misread situation, and when it does work, it's beautiful. It's fantastic. You hold on to the cap. It feels like a fantastic play. But if it doesn't work, you get shut down really, really big. And we've seen teams having that blown up in their faces multiple times. We've seen Flash Wolves. That's happened to them against Hong Kong Attitude. It's happened to them against Machi Esports. They certainly know what it feels like to be on the receiving end, but this time they're the one throwing the punches, they're the one dealing out the damage, and certainly dishing out the pain.
Now on that defense, they had a much harder time against Flash Wolves on the defense than Flash Wolves had against them.
Yeah, well, Flash Wolves capped out in one attempt, so that's
now,
about as smooth as you're looking for.
Yeah, Blank kind of have to change that one up. It's all on them. I mean, that's the thing is it's currently their game to lose.
It's a good bio to start things off from Gumbo, though. It's going to slow things down somewhat, but going to slow down 6 minutes here. Bacon Jack was the critical person who got many of the picks against Blank Esports. The last time we saw this Flash Wolves offense, look for him to make the big plays again.
Alrighty. Coming in around the side
they're
now.
going
Yeah, they've
very
gone
deep.
for a full wrap.
They're going to B already. They just want to skip A.
They've forgotten it. So, in not killing anyone, they've actually given Blank some room to kind of maneuver here, but unfortunately Blank lose Huss in that maneuver that they pull. Now Flash Wolves able to get aggressive on the side.
They positionings
They've
with Blank.
completely swapped positions with Blank, and now Blank have to kind of re-aggress. They lose Trill in so doing, and Flash Wolves are just kind of bleeding them out here, forcing them to maneuver and picking them off one by one as they do so, and now with this grand numbers advantage can just close out point A altogether. And again, only a minute, single push, 5 whole minutes that Blank have to hold out B for.
Even more because you get a little bit of extra on top of that, so an extra 30 seconds, but Flash Wolves, the maneuver was so good. They went over to this green area, they came back in, they stole the defensive positioning from Blank, and Blank, the mistake was they gave it away to Flash Wolves. They were then the attackers against a capping team. Flash Wolves, I mean, you got to be happy with that.
1/3. That's all they need. 1/3 to get the lead in this series. Jongi gets slept. That's huge for them. The attack visor is decent and they pick Huss, but Zonda's getting pressured out. And thanks to that kill on Jongi, Blank are going to hold out there because Flash Wolves had great positioning and nearly had them for a loop there.
Well, okay, he's going to use the meteor strike just to get himself. Surely he's going to get himself alive.
He's going in. He wants more. He misses and he goes down.
I don't recommend it.
Yeah, that was punished. I mean, I can see them getting the dollar bills in their eyes, so I mean, maybe that was the plan, but now they're just overcommitting here as they throw in more and more. They get a pick on Shrill and a pick on Huss, but I mean, this is really dodgy by Flash Wolves here. They lose Sinclair. This is also Blank with the respawners advantage. Shrill's gonna have a primal rage. Flash Wolves need to back out.
That's the exact thing that I want to highlight there because the respawn advantage is definitely there, which means all of these even trades still go in the favor of Blank. I think for Flash Wolves, they need a lot more than this. They need very dominant control over this point itself, and now Flash Wolves actually have the respawners, but Blank have the ultimate, so Blank get the kills.
And Flash Wolves even committed ultimates themselves for that. Jongi used the primal rage to try and get a trap in the base, and it completely misfired. So they've wasted a ton of ultimates, wasted a ton of time. Sure, you had 5.5 minutes to play with, but if that's how you're going to play with it, then you're playing with your food.
And it's certainly a little bit over-eager. I think you've really hit the nail on the head. Dollar bills in their eyes. They only need to get the 1/3. They thought they could have gotten it there. Definitely not the case. They need a little bit of time to build up their ultimate, so they have the time to do that with 3 minutes 30 still. They can even afford to lose 2, maybe even 3 fights, cap it out with not a lot of time remaining, but it certainly wouldn't be a convincing win.
Yeah, like you could do that, but by the way, don't. That is just a dangerous way to play.
I don't think they have a choice anymore, though. They're going to have to.
Exactly, they do get a pick on I8U up. That is good for them. They need to leverage it now, and they start to go. They were a little low, so they had to wait to get the health back up. So that's the respawn for Blank now. As the aggression comes out, they need to be careful of this one. So they commit a lot of ultimates for it, both those defensive ultimates, and that's the self-destruct as well. It does zone out Zonda, who had the attack visor running, and they catch Realman. That's the first sign of a numerical advantage here, but they do lose Huss. AVRL up back in the mix here, just getting good pressure down onto Bacon Jack, but he does need to keep tabs on him. He is very squishy to that Doomfist, but the stabilization has again been there. Actually, Trill getting a couple on the retreat there is very, very nice for Blank. It's going to buy them more time.
So this is a very important fight for Flash Wolves because this is the fight where Blank use a lot of ultimates, especially very crucial ones for keeping them in the game, like the Transcendent. That's probably the biggest tool that Flash Wolves needed to get rid of. They did exactly that. This time they come back with their own Transcendents. Probably could have afforded to not use their own Soundbreaker, but they were pressured to get something done. Maybe they could have gotten it in that last push. Zonda committed as well, but I think Flash Wolves, this has to be their big fight now.
It really does. They've got some of the ultimates for it. They'll have the Primal Rage up as well, but they don't have the DPS ultimates, so they're really going to be reliant on a lot of work being done by Zhongyi and just straight damage. Momo is not a great way to start. And it is the self-destruct, and actually that means Blank have to stay on this point. They have so far, but the Deadeye out from Eat You Up forces Momo off the point and is going to get him demeched in among all that. Huwu did lose his own as well. Actually, Eat You Up going down to
Here's all the kills.
That's rough. Oh, no one from Blank on the point for that crucial moment as Huss was trying to get on. I'll be honest, Blank held on for a lot longer than I was expecting. I feel like part of that was Flash Wolves maybe misfiring on their initial offense. So look, Flash Wolves getting that win there isn't unprecedented, but at the end of the day, Flash Wolves got it. They have the lead in the series, and it was well deserved.
I think so as well. I mean, you know, for a matchup like this, if you're Blank Esports, this was probably the most affordable map loss, being that if you were going to lose any map, you're almost expected to lose the Assault, especially against a team like Flash Wolves. So it's not an unprecedented defeat for Blank. You just needed to have a couple of earlier wins in the bank, and they do have that. This could have been a 3-0 if that Nepal pickup wasn't there, but because it is, Blank have a chance to strike back still. That revenge and redemption story, not over yet.
Not over yet. But looking a little bit on the ropes, they are going to be going to Escort next, which is also going to be their pick, Blank Esports, and that's where they need to even it up. But it is now going to be evening it up. From this point onwards, it is match point. And if they want that revenge and redemption, well, they can't afford to drop it anymore. And this starts to become a microcosm of the finals. If they were able to pick up that first map, kind of reminds them of day 2 of said finals, and then just kind of get cleaned out after that point. It was, I believe, a 2 and 4.
Yep.
So I say microcosm because you condense that down to a best of 5. Well, that would be a 1 and 3 result, and certainly not the result that Blank would be after.
And Escort is where Blank do start to bring things around. It's a much more favorable game mode for Blank, much like Control is a much more favorable game mode for Blank. Assault, we've already talked a lot about what Blank can do on Assault. Unfortunately, not so much so far in this tournament. That might still change around. They have some time to really look at those issues, but Flash Wolves really opened them up there. And in terms of the real meta-analysis, and when you look at things outside of the game, how did Blank feel after that Horizon game? Because that was probably their most devastating loss so far in the series.
And I can't help, you know, when you're speaking to that mentality, can't help but go back to their initial loss on the first major attack before it went into Time Bank that was completely their own doing. And without wanting to, you know, pick on him too much, but a lot of it was Huwu's complete mispositioning in getting back into the mech as the diva. When you are the new player on this team, you don't want that mistake of yours to be hanging over your shoulders. So there has to be a lot of mental discipline now exercised by Blank to recover from what just happened on Assault, which has traditionally been their weakest game mode. So you've also kind of got that playing on your mind that, wait, we still can't beat Assault no matter how hard we try. Don't let that get you down.
Especially now moving away from Assault. And thankfully for them, they only have to see it one time. Hybrid, they're going to have to see again. So if we make it to a map 5, which Blank are going to have to force now, because Flash Wolves are 2 ahead, or rather 1 ahead, but 2-1 in the series, when we get to that next Hybrid, what's going to happen? Before we get that, let's take a look at the replay first of all. This is going to be on Blank's attack in the final moments. 5 seconds here remaining. And they sort of, I can't remember, did they get this one through?
They unfortunately don't here, but they actually...
Oh, this is in the time back, of
They
course.
actually did get off to a decent start. What ultimately hurt them was they lacked Gunba here. And we talk about this a lot on Assault maps. If you're gonna be attacking point B, part of how you can kind of get set up on it for the long term is by having 2 healers and keeping both alive. So automatically when you lose 1 healer, that's kind of out of the window, right? You aren't going to be able to get that same setup. So they just look to go for something explosive instead. They actually got the picks to nearly do that. I will give them credit where credit's due, but Flash Wolves are no pushovers. And it's a classic case of, you know, counter trades favor the defenders on Assault point B. And that's really how that ended up playing out. And that was actually after Blank had already kind of saved the game for themselves by capping point A in what was a very explosive last-ditch fight.
And that was a big moment for Bacon Jack as well. In fact, the whole of Horizon Lunar Colony was pretty big for Bacon Jack. No matter what he was playing, effective on the Doomfist, deadly on the Tracer as well. We questioned his Tracer ability after seeing it on Nepal. And look, he definitely brought it back. This is, you know, if redemption is one of the words we're going to use here, that was certainly a bit of a redemption moment for Bacon Jake, and certainly sets the stage for the further maps in the series, because now there isn't going to be a weakness to be exploited on the Flashwolf side from any particular player. Blank are going to go to Dorado.
Not at all surprised. Not in the slightest surprised. Blank have an incredible map record on Dorado. They are very comfortable on it. By the way, Flashwolves are very comfortable on Dorado themselves, and it is worth mentioning that this is where Blank picked up one of their losses in the final against Flashwolves.
Yeah.
But this is still, it's a very expected map pickup.
So the thing to consider here is one of the things, one of the compositions Blank has struggled against is Flashwolves, McCree, and Doomfist, and certainly Hong Kong Attitude's McCree and Doomfist. So Dorado is one of the maps where McCree is very useful, certainly sees more playtime. Whether we see Doomfist here, quite possibly. But right now, one thing is for certain, Flashwolves have won on multiple different compositions. They've won with Doomfist, they've won without Doomfist, they've won with Tracer Soldier, they've won with, you know, McCree, Doomfist as well. So we sort of mentioned on Nepal that this is a flexible team with a lot of different methods to win under their tool belt. For Blank, it doesn't seem so much. It feels like they have Tracer Doomfist as their go-to. Aside from that, it doesn't feel like they have a lot of options, because we've seen a little bit of eat up on the Soldier, seen a little bit on the Widowmaker, just not as effective as when they run the Tracer Doomfist. But they haven't been winning on the last 2 maps with that.
On to Dorado, the moon shines bright in the sky. Always wondered, like,
you can see you can see Horizon Lunar Colony.
yeah, you actually can. You're not actually wrong. You can see some of the structures on the moon. But I've always kind of wondered, like, what is this place? Because, like, I see a lot of boats out there, but I don't really see anywhere to launch a boat. So, like, what's with the boats?
Some of them are just kind of on the beach too. I don't know.
I mean, obviously, like, the tide's gone out. Like, are these boats that are just sat there for all eternity? Like, does anyone own these boats? How do they get to them? How do they get off them? And how do you fly?
Meteor strike.
Yeah, yeah, you have to meteor strike on and off your yacht. Like, you sail up, you weigh anchor, and then what? You like swim to shore and scale up the wall so that you can get to your holiday home at Dorado? I don't get it. And if everyone here is wealthy enough to own a boat, why is there so much gang activity? This is not representative of like a higher socioeconomic town. I'm very confused.
I've never thought that deeply about Dorado.
This is,
Just gotta be very honest.
These are the questions that keep me up at night. But also, if you're Blank keeping you up at night, is can you pull out the win here?
So here's the thing. We are seeing different composition out of Blank now. We're not going to see Huss start out on the Doomfist, although he has been very much liking to play that. Now the question gets answered. Does Blank have success on different compositions or not?
Zonda nearly got picked off there, was only barely able to retreat thanks to the combined efforts of Sinclair and Realman. And actually now they're able to get their own aggression onto Blank as they demech Hulu. That is nice and big for them, as Zonda really laying on the hurt as Bacon Jack diving deep. And this is the unrelenting pressure out of Flashwolves. Blank, they either need to regroup or get counter trades, and right now they're not really getting either.
And Blank are going to have to just fall right back out of here. In fact, leave their own choke. These kills are very staggered, so this just worse and worse for Blank. Now they have to wait for Gumba. They had to wait for Hulu before. They just don't ever have this full team together. While Flashwolves, they get the push through. Cart's already past the archway. About to go around the fountain as well. This positioning from Flashwolves is also very aggressive, very good.
Very aggressive indeed. I mean, this is that capitalization. This is how Flashwolves have been playing this season in general. Yeah, they've nearly capped. So now it's on Blank to contest it. No one sees it. There we go. Finally getting to contest it out of Huwu. And Flashwolves are happy to just give it the space now as they channel out the Deadeye. Does force Blank to duck for cover, so nothing quite covers of it. But again, demeching Huwu. No counter trades are in just yet. And by the way, even if they do, there is a resurrection that can come out of Realman. Now they start getting the kills through. Yeah, it should come out now to really tip the scales. In fact, they may actually not even need it. Now they are going to go ahead and commit the res, and I think rightfully so. Maybe could have saved it, but better safe than sorry. That's the cap.
No, you want the tempo, because what would have actually happened is they didn't cap in time, so those members may have respawned all the way back at the original spawn, and you lose a lot of time for those members to try and get back in position. Now you actually have players that can get up in position early, stop Blank from getting onto the high ground, exactly like what Bacon Jack's about to do here. So this is great tempo movement now from Flashwolves, setting the standard for how you want to approach this beat.
Speaking of, they've taken that high ground. It is going to be onto Flashwolves to kind of aggress onto it, but also it's going to be on Blank to stop the cart movement when that comes around. Bacon Jack trying to weave around the side to put pressure on, but he has been spotted and dealt with by Huss, who's now opening up with the Dragon Blade. Let's see what he gets for it, because Sinclair is in the mix with the Transcendence now.
Blank respond.
Yeah, Blank have committed a lot. They do at least get the 1 kill with that Dragon Blade, but that may not be enough. Transcendence out from Gunba. Ooh, doesn't quite save Eat You Up from the self-destruct, but they trade back onto Zonda. Bacon Jack could still just go off on this fight, but not if he's dead to Trill, and that is Blank looking to stabilize on the defense.
Absolutely, that was important timing for Blank, because that's exactly when the ultimates came up. For the first cap A, they had nothing to use. They were just being taken out. Flash Wolves had everything in the bank for them. Use the res, even swap their hero onto something else. Blank Esports had the positioning onto B. They had the ultimates to use as well, and they made sure they used it.
They're going very aggressive on this as well. Not being punished for it, which is ideal, I suppose, but that was very tenuous for a moment for Trill. Him going down could have actually really hurt them quite a lot.
Eventually, you got to leave here, because
Yeah.
this is not good grounds for you. You're just going to get overwhelmed from good respawners. If you lose any members, this is not what you want.
Ooh, able to scrape out, but that means they're not going to get a great position on the street phase again. They've kind of lost their opportunity to retake that high ground.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I liked the aggressive positioning in terms of routing Flash Wolves, but now they're just kind of giving them space to get the cart moving and set up Bacon Jack, and forces a Transcendence out of Gunba just so they can stay alive. And now suddenly there's pressure to convert kills. They do at least do so. Good news for Blank as they close out on K-Momo's mech. Unfortunately losing Huss in the mix, but they close out on K-Momo and Realman both, and should be able to stabilize on this defense once again. Ooh, Eat You Up.
1 HP, okay. Well, for Blank, this has actually been
Not even close, baby.
This has been a fairly good run of skirmishes for them, because they got quite aggressive, didn't lose Trill, thankfully. Then in the recurring fight after that, they managed to pick up a lot of kills. They still keep that ultimate lead. So for Flash Wolves, on the back foot, they do get cart push though, so they're getting something done. Blank Esports, they need to stall this one out.
They absolutely do need to, and they have also stalled out a significant amount. Flash Wolves know that, and they know they can't push this cart any further as Blank go on the aggressive, taking out Zonda. They are looking much more in their element now on the defense. They do unfortunately lose Eat You Up. It is indeed Elite Transcendence. Now Huss still got plenty of health, opens up with the Dragon Blade on the back end with that Transcendence now out of the picture. It's only the sound barrier. He's actually being zoned out of the juicier kills and has to put the blade away, gets nothing for his hard work there, unfortunately. Now Blank looking lean for ultimates. Really need to... Oh dear, that's not ideal. Losing Huwu's mech and Zonda getting a couple with the tactical visor as well means Blank just going to have to cede the ground, but they do get another opportunity to contest.
That was a good disengage by Flash Wolves, and they made sure they kept everyone alive during the Dragon Blade. Huss found nothing. Then he got punished, he got killed. A couple members died with ultimates on the Blank Esports side as well. So very good push on through from Flash Wolves. 1 minute 30 left on the clock, but Blank Esports once again in the lead for ultimates. What are they going to do with this? Because they should be able to get the hold.
They really need to get the hold, and already a couple of members being kind of zoned out by Bacon Jack. Pulse Bomb goes out, doesn't actually catch Gunba. The Transcendence just lasting that last few seconds as they close out on Jongi. And now it's on Flash Wolves to either trade or find a way to regroup in this one as the pressure is coming out of Eat You Up and Huss both. This is now the retreat for Flash Wolves. They will be able to do it semi-successfully, but Huss are able to get aggressive enough to take out those two supports, and that D-Mech on the back end is really big. They are burning down a lot of Flash Wolves' time.
And that was an important fight for Blank to be able to win, because they are ahead. They actually still are ahead right now as well. For Flash Wolves though, 50 seconds and counting down. They don't have a lot of options here to deal with. The good news is Cart in a very good position. That's going to allow them to take these flanks if they want to. Really opens up the avenues and angles for how they want to approach this next fight, and it does appear like they're going to take the top right.
If it becomes a real big scrappy fight though, ultimately the respawns will favor Blank, and that is not the kind of fight Flash Wolves want, but it's the one they need because they don't have the ultimates to leverage just yet. They need to last long enough to get those up. Speaking of up, I Eat You Up, looking for a Pulse Bomb. Huss needs to be careful to not go down. That's the Dragon Blade out of the picture already. That's not the opening up that Blank wanted, but they are keeping Flash Wolves zoned off this cart, so Flash Wolves need to find the way on. But they got the pick on the Trill. Pulse Bomb goes wide, and they lose Huwu as well. Blank would try to get maybe a little bit too clever, and now Flash Wolves are on the cart. It's in overtime, so Blank can still come in and contest, and should certainly do so. They can win it right here, right now. And here they go. That's the Transcendence out, and the Dragon Blade as well, but here's the ultimates the Flash Wolves had been able to get available in that time. Huss finds nothing, loses his life to Zonda's tactical visor, and Blank, congratulations, you played yourself.
Well, I still think it was a really valiant defense. What they actually got out of that was all the ultimates from Flash Wolves. So importantly, despite not winning that defense, because you bled the ultimates from Flash Wolves, now Flash Wolves don't get to snowball either. This favors the defense because respawn-wise, you have the advantage, and also now economically, you're ahead again.
The only thing I find strange is they tried to hold Flash Wolves back way in advance of the cart and lost a bunch of members, which actually gave Flash Wolves those ultimates that Blank just burned out of them. Now they're going to be using their own ultimates again and still have to last out for a minute, by the way. I mean, this is still very holdable for Blank, don't get me wrong, but I feel like that could have been a 0.2 hold for them. In any case, Sound Barrier to commit hard to this one. They convert the kill onto Sinclair and Realman, both DMEC and K-Momo for good measure. And it actually seems that Bacon Jack and Zonda are not getting as much work done as Eat You Up and Huss.
And you are feeling the effects now of the fact that Flash Wolves use all their ultimates just to get B, coming into C without getting any snowball momentum. They just can't push it past that first corner. With barely any time remaining, they need something to use here to really cap on through. I'm actually not really thinking Flash Wolves can complete this map anymore because Blank, they're about to hit all their big ultimates once more. Flash Wolves, not even close.
Yeah, not even close at all. And they only really have time for one more fight, so Blank. Distance will become a factor here as well. They do need to take that into consideration, but they can just take their time as well. Haas, oh dear, did not get the retreat. Need you up going down as well. Means this Transcendence from Gunba, it buys time, but it's not really time for the DPS to go off. And now actually, Blank are lean on ultimates.
Yeah.
Flash Wolves of theirs coming up on rotation. This is disastrous for Blank now as they all get wiped. Now, it's going to be EU up and us. What they really need to do is back up and try and fight this at the very end and stop Flash Wolves from capping with a few more respawns in the mix. That is what they're going to do, but it gives Flash Wolves time to set up.
And by the way, Transcendence, Zonda's ready with Attack Visor as well.
There it is.
This looks so good, but Blank
EU
not
up
even
is dead.
care.
They can't get onto it because of this Tactical Visor as Gunba goes down as well. They've got no ultimates to leverage either. Trill and Huss dead to rights, and that's going to be the cap through for Flash Wolves. Was so achievable for Blank all the way along, but they absolutely hurt themselves, shot themselves in the foot, in fact, a couple of times. And Flash Wolves, they won't get a time bank, but they do get the cap.
And the thing is, you know, if we want to talk about Blank maybe misplaying in the final moments of B, I think they played that moment correctly. We want to talk about what happened on C. Now that is a misplay because they were expected to beat Blank. They were expected to beat Flash Wolves. They had the ultimate advantage, but they didn't take into account. In fact, no one really takes into account what if Huss and Eat Up just died.
Yeah.
They just died. Like, no ultimates were spent, nothing was used, they just died. And then Gumba came out with the Transcendence, and he had to just save the rest of the members that were there. He saved them for the 6-second duration.
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough because, crucially, the ultimates came online for Flash Wolves just when they needed it. So, you know, I think the discussion was Flash Wolves towards the opening of C didn't really have the momentum or the pushing power or the ultimates or the tools to really get it to the end. They looked like they weren't going to cap out the map at all. But because they got the two opening picks onto Eat Up and Huss, who are probably the two most important members, and then got their own ultimates, well, that's a cap.
And it's unfortunate because up until that point, they'd done everything right so that they could close it out when the time came. They set themselves up, indeed, twice, both on B and C, such that they only needed to win one fight to complete the full hold and lost both of those fights. You talk about failing to get it over the line, and that is exactly what we mean.
And the silver lining here for Flash Wolves, or rather for Blank, is they forced it into overtime. So if nothing else, that's something that they can work with, assuming we're going to get to the time bank, which I'm thinking we will, because Flash Wolves have been pretty solid on attack on all three of the maps after Nepal so far. So, I mean,
Yeah,
it's definitely looking good for Flash Wolves.
It absolutely is. I mean, they need only do what Blank failed to do just now, and that is find the opportunity to get the...
Gumba's going to show Eat Up how it's done.
Yeah. By also missing...
He is an Ana player, so this isn't too unexpected, but just going to look for an early scout, not going to
off.
find anything. Going to go back to something more normal.
Like Zenyatta.
What could be more normal than Zenyatta?
A flying robot monk. There is frankly nothing
That
more
is
normal
the
than that.
default state I'm usually in.
That's, yeah, I mean, when I'm at my most tranquil, that's what I'm like. So, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. But at any rate, the aggressive fight now out of Flash Wolves, sorry, out of Blank, rather. They do convert one onto Bacon Jack, but they trade it for Huss. They've got the cart moving, though, and they've kind of forced Flash Wolves to reposition, which is good, but they haven't quite punished that reposition just yet. And unfortunately, losing RQT as they are unable to close out on Realman themselves. This is a lot of ult charge as well for Flash Wolves, and it's kind of stuck under the bridge for now.
And it's definitely decent cart movement for an initial push, because where you don't want the cart to be stuck is on that first corner. Do not even get to the archway. We are going to get into a little bit of a pause here. But overall, what can we say about the opening moment so far? 1 minute off the clock, or rather 57 seconds. We are at the archway, so we're expecting, Blank to, within the next, I would say, minute, even in the next push, to be able to cap on out, because that is pretty much exactly what Flash Wolves did themselves.
It does seem to be that the pause is due to an issue with Bacon Jack's PC. We may have more details on that at some point, but hopefully should be a quick fix. So do just hold tight. That is Flash Wolves on the defense right now. I kind of want to touch on something interesting here, and that is the difference between Flash Wolves and Blank in that reposition. Because what Flash Wolves do, if they've been able to force the other team to reposition, is they follow up in a certain way. They don't just take the space that they've made, they will also then actually make an aggressive move to try and catch the other team while they are repositioning. And I'd say 90% of the time, it's going off, right? Blank didn't do that. They sort of had an opportunity to do it, and there was a moment there where Realman got very low, but was able to stay safe and top himself off. And I feel like actually had they opted to go more aggressive, they had like 4 or 5 members on the cart. You only actually need one to keep it pushing. I feel like if they had opted to go more aggressive with the likes of Eat You Up and Trill, they possibly could have closed out some kills on the repositioning Flash Wolves and could have kept the momentum going. That's what Flash Wolves did to them on the first point.
Absolutely, and then the tempo res on top of that, and everything was just sort of working out for them. So you even look at what could potentially go wrong there, or how can Blank in that same situation really bring it back around? Just not a lot of options, because even if you do want to get aggressive, even if you do get the counter trades, the resurrection comes through, and it did just come through anyway. So for Blank, we're not seeing
Blank's defense,
we're not seeing the same sort of momentum that we've seen for Flash Wolves on their attack, and that's going to set the stage, because look, Flash Wolves had a bit of a rough run on B especially. They had a lot of moments on the early stages of B where, because they lost momentum, they never really kept that cart moving as much as they wanted to. So for Blank now, I think getting a quick cap on A and then getting better momentum that Flash Wolves had on B is going to set the stage to get a much better time going into time bank.
Yeah, getting back into the game now. Like I said, quick fix issues resolved, and absolutely, assuming they cap point A, Blank are going to be relying on a high momentum run through the streets phase.
And they have the team to do that, because they are still running Huss onto the Genji, so a lot of reset potential that could really make
like
this play. But look, Huss goes down quite early. So
yeah, unfortunately, was not able to retreat there back to his healers, and that means that Blank just kind of have to go on that full retreat, and this is what Flash Wolves do. This is exactly what I was just talking about. It's punishing the reposition.
They haven't stopped punishing.
They're looking to close out on RQT now, going very aggressive to do it. They don't have to worry about moving the cart, nor do they have to worry about Blank somehow regrouping and going aggressive, because they have to first heal up. So Flash Wolves are able to safely retreat, now a comfortable ultimate advantage.
Exactly. We're about to hit all 6 lights up as well. This is the Christmas tree defense Flash Wolves are looking for. Everything available for them. Blank Esports still waiting on a couple. But their power spike is about to hit as well. Going to see a really big engagement. 6 ultimates on 6.
It's the pulse bomb out from Bacon Jack. Just kind of onto nothing, but it does force the Transcendence out of Gunburst, so they keep themselves ahead in the ultimate economy for now. EU Up throws out his own pulse bomb. That's a good self-destruct from from K-Momo, rather, to keep the space alive for them. But now Flash Wolves are looking a little lean on ultimates. Sound Barrier for Sound Barrier. Zonda's still holding onto this tactical visor, and no one's really contested him just yet. Nor has the payload moved. Yeah, it's just been a lot of noise and no kills just yet, but now the open up from Huwu and Zonda both, sorry, Huss and Zonda both, and still neither gets a kill. Huss, the only one dead.
Huss's Dragon Blade was entirely wasted, so despite not getting a kill on the Huss, actually his ultimate not being used was a big part of that. The cart does move instead though, so some progress being gained by Blank Esports.
Like I said, it's a lot of noise and no kills, but they finally have got a couple. Overall, this entire protracted fight has only been a 2 for 2, but they have at least got the cart distance in that and are keeping on the pressure. So credit where credit is due as they demet K-Momo, and they're keeping up the aggression now as they know Flash Wolves must commit, and now Blank with the more favorable position, with the ultimates nice and even, are able to close out the cap.
And that has been a very successful
No one
stall
from
from
the
the
cap.
Flash Wolves anyway, because 1 minute remaining is what the Blank Esports guys had when they actually capped on A. So now they need that momentum again that Flash Wolves did not have going into B. B is exactly what is going to set the stage for the entire result of this map.
You can see already A8UP is looking to open that street space for them with a pulse bomb, but losing
Zonda
the
opens.
pass. Yeah, Zonda opens first, and actually Blank might just have to go into that retreat that we've been talking so much about. Certainly need to keep Trill and Gunba both alive, and well, failed at one half.
Yeah, okay, that momentum's gone now. So this is the window that unfortunately gets closed for Blank Esports. Flash Wolves couldn't get the cart moving in this sort of same position. Blank Esports do not get the cart moving. Unfortunately, Blank Esports have a lot less time to play with because at least for Flash Wolves, they got A in one attempt.
Yeah, and they've still got EduUp trying to set up on this flank. Now though, he's been spotted out, so he's just going to have to commit to the fight proper. And that actually could be what Blank need in this. They need the extra damage, but unfortunately lose EduUp to Sinclair. They have not been set up adequately. Have always been at a numbers disadvantage because they've been trying to set up with EduUp, and it shows. They are going to go and retreat again and lose Gunba in so doing, and have ultimately just lost a minute of time.
All right, well, Ultimate Brawl is about to happen again. Both teams now coming up with a ton on both sides. Bacon Jack used the Pulse Bomb, so we're going to be specific here. 6 ultimates against 5. Blank Esports, this is their moment. Their team doesn't get any stronger. They've hit their maximum power spike. The time to strike is now.
But they actually need to strike. They're having a hard time of it, and they will be fighting through the tactical visor. So that's the commit. And Zonda smartly just goes on full retreat, avoiding Huss at all costs, who instantly goes down to the tactical visor. The Transcendence from Sinclair kept the team alive. Gunba keeping his team alive now with his Transcendence, but RQT and Gunba both worse for wear as Chill gets picked, and Flash Wolves can go again on the aggressive, and Blank are just really struggling to break this hold.
So telegraphed as well. Unfortunately for Huss and the rest of Blank Esports, they wanted to go on the Sound Barrier Dragon Blade play. Sound Barrier very early. Dragon Bladed rather early as well for Flash Wolves. They backed up, they punished Huss, and they said, good try, go on to something different. Huss is going to come back on Doomfist now, and Flash Wolves continue the defense, and Blank Esports barely got time to push on through.
Yeah, this is the payload moving though, so what this does mean is Flash Wolves now have to commit onto Blank rather than the other way round, and that could be the difference. But with Huss going down already on the Doomfist, yeah, that is indeed a kill. The payload is underway, so again, Flash Wolves do still have to come to Blank at some point, but if this is how it's going to be for the Streets phase of Blank, moving the card a bit and then losing members and not being able to commit to fights, then with this 1 minute remaining, they're going to struggle. The pick on Gunba is huge to that end. The self-destruct to create space as Huwu unfortunately dies before he remax.
Huge because Gunba was nearly at Transcendence. That could have been a tool for Blank Esports to get back in here. Is that a kill? It's unfortunately not for Flash Wolves. Blank Esports, they're going to have to sigh of relief, but they need a little bit of ultimate charge now. They got both support ultimates, so maybe they can get something done there. A kill onto Realment as well surely should be the opening Blank have to look for.
Like they just... Blank just want to heal. Like, they just keep falling back to try and heal, and every single time get punished. Huss nearly going down to Zonda because he wasn't actually on that high ground, was just dead in his sights. And speaking of sights, Tactical Visor again available. It's going to be a hard brawl to the finish for Blank. And look at this. They're setting up on the backside. They have to stop the cart, but they can now that EduUp is dead. Look at Zonda's completely uncontested positioning. Now they're going to open up any moment now to secure out the fight. This is the go button. Surely the sound barrier out from Blank, and when are they going to commit? At long last, Zonda goes on this backside as they pick off Gunba, getting into the likes of RQT and Huss now, and Blank gonna fall to bits on the payload, not even gonna get anywhere near as close as Flash Wolves to that ultimate cap. And indeed, in a microcosm of their finals, it will be Flash beating Blank Esports 3-1.
Flash Wolves once again maintaining that lead in the standings, maintaining their dominance in the OPC, still undefeated in Season 2, and Blank Esports will be taking their second loss now in the first round robin. Redemption for Blank, maybe. Revenge, unfortunately not.
Certainly not, yeah. There was some really great moments for Blank. There's some solid bits of showing, but there were also places where honestly, there were misfires where maybe poor calls were made, and this, unsurprisingly being the play of the game, was the result of one of those. EduUp and Huss had died prior to this, gave Zonda the ult charge, gave him the positioning as well, and from that point on, it was just kind of nigh unholdable for Blank, and it was all their own doing.
And even in that crucial moment for Flash Wolves capping on through, I think we talked about what if Blank had actually made the full hold on C. It was definitely within the realm of possibility. Now it becomes clear it's kind of irrelevant. Even if they had made the full hold on C, actually where Blank made the mistake was on B. They couldn't push it on through. And in fact, if I'm going to take it back even further, I want to say maybe A, because Flash Wolves had a really good push on A. That gave them time to lose on B. They had buffer time to work with. So yeah, they got into the overtime, but they brought it all through the A cap, the very quick A cap. Blank just didn't have that.
Yeah.
So that's why they got held out on B.
And the thing is, look, the defense from Blank on B was good. It burned down a lot of the clock that Flash Wolves had after that quick cap on A. But at no point did they actually fully hold it out. So that's the thing, right? First of all, if you could defend that well on the streets phase, why couldn't you do it on point A? And if you could defend that well on the streets phase, why wasn't it good enough to just fully hold out? So it may have looked good, but it's this thing of getting it over the line, and that is where Blank fell short. Speaking of, this is that exact falling short in their final push here. And you can already see the positioning from Zondo, who, by the way, was uncontested the entire time. No one ever got close to him on this high ground. Not Huss on either the Genji or the Doomfist, nor Trill with that Winston. And it totally showed. This is about his third tactical visor of the game here. Now he's able to commit to the low ground. On the backside of Blank, they have no one protecting that area, no one contesting him on the high ground before that, and he's just constantly putting out free damage.
I want to talk about some of the engages as well, because it's not like people didn't want to contest them. Huss tried multiple times on different heroes too. He tried to do it on Genji, shut down. He tried to do it on Doomfist. Zonda had his sights and had him in the sights again. So everything Blank tried to do, it wasn't enough to take down Zonda, and he was the big problem for them on the second phase of Dorado and on that defense for Blank Esports. So I mean, I think the big moment for me, if it comes up in a replay, was when Blank pushed on into streets with 6 ultimates against 5. And with the 6 ultimates, got nothing done, unfortunately. So actually, no, had some cart movement, which is important. I really...
After everyone had used the ultimates.
So this is the thing, I really focus on progress. Progress, in my opinion, is very important to look at. But they didn't have the kills to continue that progress. So despite getting progress, because they didn't get the kills, eventually they were always going to get pushed off the cart, and that's what happened.
Exactly. And I want to pick out something that happened a little bit here that has me a little bit suspecting of something. Huss really went off earlier in the night. He made some fantastic plays on Genji and Doomfist both, all the way up to even Horizon Lunar Colony was making some incredible plays, but unfortunately on Dorado, I really didn't see the same mileage out of him on any of the things he picked there. He did play a bit of the Doomfist at one point. He was also on the Genji on the attack. There was a couple of kills he was able to get, but on the whole, it seemed that maybe the pressure did actually get to those newer members of this squad.
Now looking on the other side, the other Doomfist of the match, Bacon Jack, player of the game. Yep, well deserved. Could have even have given it to him on the Tracer. And when you look at a team like Flash Wolves, is it Jongi or is it Bacon Jack? This time around, it is Bacon Jack. So
yeah.
Doomfist absolutely carried his weight. We had questions
Absolutely.
about his Tracer earlier on in the night, so maybe not the Tracer, but Doomfist, no questions about that. He pulled his weight.
And that's the thing, right? When we talk about, well, is it going to be Bacon Jack or Jongi? Actually, we normally talk about it being Bacon Jack on the Tracer. And we have questioned Flash Wolves as Doomfist. Indeed, they've struggled on the Doomfist up until this point in the tournament. But tonight, actually, if anyone redeemed themselves, it was Flash Wolves with the Doomfist play, and Bacon Jack with a well-deserved play of the game is a mark of that. Even when they had it on Zonda briefly, he was able to have some phenomenal players on it. On the whole, Flash Wolves have figured out how to mesh Doomfist into their team comp, and now you sort of sit there and go, is there anything they can't play?
And the couple questions we did have was essentially, look, what can Flash Wolves win on? Apparently quite a multitude of different compositions. Yeah. For Blank, can they win on something other than Doomfist and Tracer? So far, it doesn't appear so. They tried to go back to Tracer Genji. Not really working for them. They tried a Widowmaker, tried to put Eat Up on Soldier. None of those really worked out for them either. Now let's wind ourselves back down a little bit as we take a look at standings. We should be catching up on that as to what we should be looking for the end of the night. Flash Wolves and Ardiant now tied up 5-0. Like an AHQ, both sitting at 3-2 after both losing their matches. Hong Kong Attitude at 2-3, very close now. Machi 2-4 after taking down Liblan Supreme. Mega Thunder at 7th, and Liblan Supreme yet to pick up their win.
And we sort of talked about our kind of key stories of the night. The first, of course, being that Liblan Machi matchup, which was Liblan's loss. They only have one more chance to pick up a win now in this round robin, and that will be coming up later this weekend. Then the remainder of this weekend is really going to be this top 4 jostling about. We do have our 1 and 2 and our 3 and 4. The question now is who is where?
let's go into the post-match interview.
赛后访问就是请到我们的选手
Realment
接受访
from
问喽。
Flash Wolves.
大家好，我是311。
哎，是麦克风没声音吗？
Have you got some sound in your microphone?
啊，有。今天呢，这次比赛其实大家非常期待，因为其实你们是这一季第一次遇到了 BLK，
So this is your first time meeting
虽然
Blank
他们队友
in
有一
season 2?
点点的跟动，但你自己觉得他们整体的风格、团队风格有什么改变吗？
Do you feel like they've changed
其实
something?
他们一样是依靠输出在打出过口啦，对。
So I think they're still
加上他们
relying
也有换
on DPSs a lot.
副弹的关系跟输出的配合可能还没有像以前那
I
样。
feel like
是
they
今天
lack
在
some
应对上他们
synergy
说
with their tanks and
因
the
为有
DPSs right
换了
now.
队友嘛，自己的针对方针有改变吗？
基本上我们就是盯着他们的输出打就好了。
And
所以是
yeah,
觉
I've
得
been
输出是他们
I've
的
been mainly
过口
focusing on their
也不是
DPSs
输应该
personally.
说是他们坦克跟输出的配合没有那么好。
I feel like again the synergy is really lacking between their
是有
tanks
看
and
出他们的
DPSs.
弱点的。
算是啊。
Do you feel like you've seen their weaknesses? Realment says yes, I
访到
have.
培根的时候，其实他有讲到说，你们现在也在使用拳王了吗？可是好
So
像
Bacon says
你们
that you
团队
guys are more used to playing
不
Doomfist.
会去配合拳王这样的角
But
色。
actually,
这个部分的
it
话，
feels like
你
in
调整有点
scrims
方
maybe
向
you
吗
haven't really found the synergy yet.
就还在尝试啊，不敢说。
I feel like we're still working on it. I don't want to say, or I don't want to give away too much info on that, but
也
it's
是
a work in
加油啦
progress.
那易先生有什么问题吗？
我也想问几个问题，就是第一个是，第一张地图在尼泊尔的时候嘛，你们开始第一
So
张
on the
地图
pole
是由中打拿406，培根就可以拿拳王，在
So you had
胜组
Doomfist
是
soldier
打得很不错，还压对方的门，然后成功拿下第一张小分。可是，在后面2个小分的时候，你们
So on the
却
last
是由
two
中打拿
stages
上的是拳王，那由培根
Zonda had
在闪光配拳王的
the
阵下
Doomfist
是有点被 Blank 给技压。
Feels like when you went to
换回原本
Tracer Doomfist, you had poor results.
其实当下打起来的时候，大家没有到觉得很难打了，对吧？
Feels like we didn't feel like it was too hard to start with.
了解
So-。
那我这边想问一下，就是因为
We
现在
felt
这个
like
版
it
本
was
有点
good
像
going
是
in
一个
like
过
that,
渡
but
期，就是拳有点暴力强的版本，对。那么在接下来版本中，我们可以看到，就是不管是炸弹鼠、拦路做改强，甚至是慈悲跟低法改动，就是想好奇的问一下，就是你们身为就是选手，那闪电狼的闪亮战队是怎么来看待
So going into future patches, how are you addressing the changes made to some of the heroes in the new meta?
当然是，我觉得现在选角是越来越多元，有点像斗兽棋这样，我觉得这样是好的。对。
I feel like this meta is really opening up in future patches where you have more
那你
chances
觉
to
得
play
慈
more
悲到时候
heroes.
被改强的话，你觉得在辅助上面会有更不同的一些变化吗？
So you feel like
因为
supports
其实
have a lot of
现在
changes?
队伍很多都开始练就是慈悲和尚，
So I've actually started to learn a lot
路
more
修终于
different
要
supports
终
as
于要
well,
从 meta 上走掉了，
真的。
such as for me personally Zenyatta.
因为每次比赛套路都打久了都很像，其实大家都蛮期待改版之后的差别。
对，因为平常大家会有时候会说哦，安娜永远都有安娜，永远都有76之类，但是没有，大家都忘记其实永远都有露西欧。
是的，无论如何还是
So
恭喜
people
你们获得
forget,
这场
you know,
比赛
despite
中
other people changing, there's always going to be a Lucio player. So
都正特攻太平洋职业锦标
that
赛，
is
我
Real
们再
Mint
见喽，拜拜。
speaking on the experience now against Blank. And look, I think even, you know, for Flash Wolves, interestingly enough, like they were directly asked, like, what do you think about Blank so far? And maybe they do pick on something quite important, which is that, you know, Blank coming in as a squad kind of revamped. They've had less time to gel their members together. And maybe that is suddenly a lot more obvious against a seasoned team like Flash Wolves, who have kept their lineup through now a season
Yeah.
and a half now, to be honest.
It really is showing, and Flash Wolves as well. If there were any questions about them after World Cup, I would say they have started to answer them. They are looking like they have returned to their Season 1 form. The real question, though, is going to be, can they overcome the other tied top team in Ardient? And first up, though, tomorrow, if they're going to remain tied top, Ardient are going to have to come up against Blank Esports to begin with. Let's see if we can take a look at what tomorrow's lineup will be
And
for the day.
after that, AH going to take on Hong Kong Attitude for match number 2. And to finish off the day, it's going to be Mega Thunder versus Flash Wolves. So Mega Thunder is an interesting team because they're sort of on the back end of the standings as well. So it doesn't really get any easier for them, but it doesn't get easier for Blank either because the highlight match is the match we're going to start with. And that is Ardient versus Blank. And after this performance, there are some questions because you expected a more competitive result from Blank. Certainly go the distance. If you're going to lose to Flash Wolves, go the distance, go all the way to 5 maps, go to multiple time banks if need be. That just wasn't the case. Unfortunately, Ardient had some run-ins against AHQ, but ultimately AHQ couldn't really touch them. So are Blank going to touch
Yeah.
Are Blank going to touch Ardian?
You certainly feel that for Blank, at least, Ardian will be the harder matchup of the weekend compared to playing against Flash Wolves. And then, if I'm not mistaken, they do still come up against AHQ. That will be on Sunday for the final match of this first round robin. So Blank, much like Ardian, have to face off against these other teams in that top 4. But compared to Ardian, have so far picked up a loss, while Ardian have picked up a win. By the way, Flash Wolves and AHQ have already played, Flash Wolves being the better of those two teams. So the other big feature matchup of the weekend will be, eventually when we come to it, Ardian versus Flash Wolves. So regardless of tomorrow's result of Ardian Blank, that will also be a real hot one to look out for, because honestly, it's probably going to be the decider of first, second, unless Blank really do pull out a big win tomorrow.
Actually, the Ardian Blank match is a good measuring stick for how Ardian are going to go up against the Flash Wolves in the final match just before we finish off the evening. Hong Kong Attitude and AHQ, that's hotly contested because of the history between the two teams. AHQ currently on a losing streak against Hong Kong Attitude, who are looking better and better as the season progresses, so look forward to that. But otherwise, look, that's week 3, day 1, all wrapped up, 3 matches completed. I've been Kevin Walker, joined with me this evening, Matt, Pixie, Carol, and 3 more exciting matches coming in tomorrow, and then 4 coming into Sunday as we finish up the first round robin in OPC Season 2. We'll see you tomorrow night.